Chapter 528 Strange Yuanligua. Previously, their master's breakthrough speed to the mysterious heaven realm intermediate stage was already very fast. They had not expected that with the help of these Yuanligua, she would immediately start to break through into the innate realm. If the news of this speed of cultivation were to spread, they were afraid that the number of people shocked will be beyond count. This trip to the ancient monument was really worth it. Master is so powerful. That Ji Yuner is not the opponent of our master. She is a bit older and dares to boast of her cultivation level. Xiao Hei's brows rose, and his eyes were full of pride. In the past, Ji Yuner's strength had been stronger, and this had been extremely unfavorable to their master. They had not expected that their master would break through into the Hong border in such a short period of time. They wondered what kind of expression Ji Yuner would make if she knew this. Why is it that all of the Yuanligua have been absorbed by master, but there is still one floating here? Xiao Bai's eyes fell onto the only floating Yuanligua in the stone room. The characteristics of this Yuanligua were too unusual. Listening to Xiao Bai's words, Xiao Hei also looked at the Yuanligua in the air, and his eyes were full of an expression of wrongness. It's hard to think. This one must have some hidden mystery to it. Xiao Bai and Xiao Hei looked at each other and saw the flashing interest in each other's eyes. In the next moment, the figures of the two fluffballs did not hesitate to shoot towards the one Yuanligua. However, the Yuanligua seemed to have spirituality and avoided the attack of the two fluffballs. Seeing this situation, the two fluffballs were sure that this Yuanligua was special. All the previous Yuanligua had been very easy to capture. Only this Yuanligua was slippery and could not be caught. If master had not absorbed all of the Yuanligua, they would have not found this mysterious Yuanligua. The way to leave this stone room must be related to this Yuanligua. Xiao Hei said, his brain's hole getting wider. During the period of their master's retreat, they had searched every corner of the stone room, and there was no mechanism to be found. It seems that this Yuanligua, which was constantly running away, was likely the way to leave the stone room. When they thought of this, Xiao Hei and Xiao Bai were full of endless excitement. They didn't believe that with their power, this Yuanligua could not be captured. Then, a chasing game broke out in the stone room. Two figures, one black and one white, were constantly chasing the green Yuanligua, and all three were lightning fast. In desperation, the two fluffballs found that the speed of this Yuanligua was beyond their expectations. Even if they chased it together, this Yuanligua had still had the capacity to escape. Xiao Hei and Xiao Bai were even angrier, and immediately pounced towards the Yuanligua. This situation was really embarrassing for Xiao Hei and Xiao Bai, and if they really couldn't catch it, then they were both useless. When Bailey Hongzhuang successfully broke through to the innate realm and opened her eyes, she saw two fluffballs lying on the ground panting, and they looked like they had had a big fight with others. There was a hint of sorrow in their eyes, and doubts emerged in Bailey Hongzhuang's mind. There was no one in the stone room except her and the three beasts. What were the two little fluffballs doing? What happened to you two? Bailey Hongzhuang could not help but ask. Did the two fluffballs fight among themselves? That! Xiao Hei gasped and sat up, saying, Master, I am exhausted. Xiao Bai's situation was also not good, but his eyes were flashing with excitement. Chapter 529 Treasure, Black Iron Box. What happened? Bailey Hongzhuang felt that the current situation was a bit wrong. Nothing should have happened while she was cultivating. After Xiao Bai heard this, it came to Bailey Hongzhuang's side and reached for the key. Master, this key is for you. Seeing the key in Xiao Hei's hand, the elegant and refined face was covered with an expression of shock. Where did you find this key? Just looking at it, Bailey Hongzhuang could be certain that this key could open the black iron box, and in her heart, she grew confused. This key was in a Yuanligua. As Xiao Bai recounted what happened before, Bailey Hongzhuang understood the events that transpired previously, and she became even more surprised. The thoughts of this ancient monument's owner were really different. It was really hard to notice a key in a Yuanligua. Together with the events that happened before, obviously, everything from the time she walked into this stone chamber, and what happened next was played out in the hands of the ancient monument's owner. Everything she did was prearranged by the owner. Only after she absorbed all the Yuan Li Gua would she discover the last odd one and get the key. Otherwise, she was afraid that she would not be able to find a way to leave the stone chamber. How long have I been cultivating? Bailey Hongzhuang asked. To her it seemed like a short time had passed to absorb all the Yunli Gua. Master has been cultivating for half a month. Xiao He slowly said. During this half-month, it was very boring only with Xiao He. It was almost like the long years in the Chaos Ring, with only they both together. Hearing the resentment in Xiao He's voice, Bailey Hongzhuang's lips showed a smile. These two little guys had been trapped for too many years in the Chaos Ring. They feared loneliness the most. I don't know how Di Beichen is now, Bailey Hongzhuang said out loud. She and Di Beichen had been suddenly separated. She believed that Di Beichen must be very worried about her. Half a month's time was not too short in the ancient monument. She didn't know what kind of situation they are in now. Thinking of this, Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes could not help but fall on the black iron box in her hands. She would like to see what was in it. Kacha! With a subtle sound coming, Bailey Hongzhuang successfully opened the black iron box in her hand. After seeing the contents of the box, Bailey Hongzhuang's deep, watery, phoenix eyes could not help but reveal a stunned expression. In front of her eyes, she saw a long crystal-clear sword quietly placed in the black iron box. The crystal-long sword was like an icy shard, and a cold chill effused from it, exquisite and unique, giving a sense of surprise. Although Bailey Hongzhuang had seen many weapons, she still felt that this long sword was the most charming. Among all the swords that she had seen, this sword seemed the most compatible. With a slight movement, the tip of the sword reflected a cold light, and there was a hint of murderous aura to it, making people feel a little scared and loving it at the same time. Wow, Xiao He exclaimed. This sword is so beautiful. It was also very knowledgeable. What kind of weapons had it not seen? But this crystal-clear weapon was really its the first time to see. On a closer look, there seems to be a faint line of red in the sword. It seems to be blood. Chapter 530 Treasure Glass Sword. Listening to Xiao He's words, Bailey Hongzhuang noticed that there was a faint trace of bloody color on the crystal-clear sword. This bloody color was extremely light, and if they didn't look carefully they couldn't find it. This sword should not be an ordinary kind. The light and sweet voice revealed a mix of emotions, and Bailey Hongzhuang gazed at the sword in her hands. From her point of view, this sword was very special. Even if she quietly placed it back in the black iron box, she could still feel the fierceness and murderousness of the sword. Obviously, this was a sword that was contaminated with blood. Master, you should first put a drop of blood on it to make it acknowledge you as master, Xiaobai said. Once they walked out of the stone chamber, they don't know how many cultivators would hunger for the sword in master's hand. It was better to make it acknowledge her with blood first, and it won't be easy for others to take the sword away later. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly as she moved her gaze away from the sword. It was just that she had always lacked a hand-to-hand combat weapon. This sword appeared at just the right time. She believed that with this sword, her combat power would be improved again. Thinking of this, Bailey Hongzhuang no longer hesitated, directly cutting her finger and dripping blood on the sword. Blood dripped onto the blood, not immediately integrating into the blade, but a small trace appearing along the blade from the hilt to the tip of the sword, a long and thin line. With the influx of Bailey Hongzhuang's spiritual power, the blood began to be slowly absorbed by the sword. As soon as the blood was absorbed, a bright white light appeared in the top of the sword, just like this radiant ancient monument. Then, Bailey Hongzhuang noticed that there were two characters appearing on the crystal body of the sword. The words gave a feeling of sharpness. Luli. Luli. Bailey Hongzhuang gazed at the two characters. Obviously, the name of this sword was Luli. This sword is so magical, it is almost unreal. A strange light flashed in Xiao He and Xiao Bai's eyes after seeing this sword, with its appearance and its special characteristics. Congratulations to Master. However, listening to the congratulations of the two fluffballs, Bailey Hongzhuang shook her head. I just left a trace of my spirit on the glass sword, and did not complete the acknowledgement. Why? Xiao He and Xiao Bai both widened their eyes, and looked at Bailey Hongzhuang with doubt. Bailey Hongzhuang's cinnabar lips curve in a helpless smile. There is a seal on the sword. It is not an easy task to crack this seal. With my current power, it is not possible to crack the seal. It is better to leave a trace of my spirit on it. Branding, after leaving the ancient monument, we will think of it again. Xiao Bai and Xiao He understood this. It seems that things were not as simple as they thought. But for any treasure of a good grade, it was not a small matter to make it acknowledge a master, let alone a sword as special as Lu Li. Bailey Hongzhuang slowly rose and looked at the door of the stone chamber in front of her. She had been trapped for the stone chamber for so long, it was time to go out. However, looking around, Bailey Hongzhuang was surprised to find that on the right side of the stone room, she didn't know when, but a small door had appeared, and there was a simple lever next to the small door. With the idea of trying, Bailey Hongzhuang turned the lever. Sha! A voice sounded, and then, Bailey Hongzhuang found that the stone door in front of her had suddenly opened. Chapter 531 Meeting again. Not a single second was wasted to open the door. This was the inner thought of Bailey Hongzhuang, and the two contractual beasts. They had had to look for the mechanism for such a long time before. But now it was so easy to open the stone door. Not long after Bailey Hongzhuang came out of the stone door, a pleasant voice came. Hongzhuang, you finally appeared. A voice so active and full of joy. Who could it be besides Xia Zhiqing? The next moment, Bailey Hongzhuang was directly pulled into a bear hug. Hongzhuang, I haven't seen you in the monument for such a long time. I thought you had an accident. Xia Zhiqing's eyes were full of care. You're fine? When she saw Xia Zhiqing, Bailey Hongzhuang was very happy. She immediately shook her head and said, I am very good. I am relieved to see that you are also fine. She had previously seen Zhiqing and the others when they had been trapped in the illusion. She had been very worried in her heart. She did not expect that she would just walk out the stone door and see Xia Zhiqing appear in front of her innocently, and her heart was full of happiness. Then, Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes could not help but search for someone in the back. Previously, Di Beichen had been trapped in the stone room like her, and she didn't know if Di Beichen had come out. Wifey, are you looking for me? A low-pitched and enchanting voice sounded, revealing a bit of joy and sorrow. And Di Beichen looked at Bailey Hongzhuang with a smile. The dark and bright phoenix eyes showed a touch of joy, and Bailey Hongzhuang's lips slowly curved. As long as Di Beichen was okay, she would be relieved. Hongzhuang, how did you stay inside for so long? Xia Zhiqing could not help but ask. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled helplessly. I was trapped inside. I could not find a way outside for a while. I have only succeeded now. When she answered and looked at the situation around, she discovered that all cultivators were gathered here. But the environment in front of her was not of the one before she entered the stone chamber. This was another place. Why is everyone here? Bailey Hongzhuang was a bit puzzled. It was a given since she was trapped in the stone room for so long. The treasures in the monument should have already been collected by everyone. Why were they gathered here now? Ah! Xia Zhiqing sighed. I have been here for 10 days. I heard everyone say that the door in front is the one to the main hall. The most valuable treasure is in the main hall. But this stone door is too strange, simply does not open. This is an ancient monument. Naturally everyone is reluctant to leave before seeing the final inheritor. So everyone is gathered here. And you are the last one to come. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded. And only then did she understand the situation, as her eyes fell in the huge stone doors in front. Compared to the huge stone deuce in front of her, the place she came from before was just a very small stone room. This stone door was painted with exquisite and complicated patterns. It was beautiful and stunning, and watching it would give people a sense of peace and calmness. At the same time, Gong Shaoqing and the others also walked to the side of Bailey Hongzhuang, their familiar faces flashing with concern and happiness. Hongzhuang, fortunately you are fine. Zhang Yinfeng smiled. Everyone was worried to death. Bailey Hongzhuang noticed that Zhang Yinfeng and Chao Huiyan were injured. What happened to you? Chapter 532 Could she be happier? Cui Haoyan smiled and waved his hand. It is just a little injury. It doesn't matter. Seeing that Cui Haoyan and Zhang Yinfeng's faces were normal, Bailey Hongzhuang also nodded. From a doctor's point of view, both Cui Haoyan and Zhang Yunfeng's injuries were not serious. Bailey Hongzhuang, you can rest assured that we are fine. His heart had never been calm in the time that Bailey Hongzhuang had disappeared, and now a warm smile graced his face like a spring breeze. It was not until he saw Bailey Hongzhuang that he felt relieved. 1. Fu Hongbo looked at Bailey Hongzhuang, who had disappeared for half a month. He felt that the mental fortitude of Bailey Hongzhuang seemed to have changed. Bailey Hongzhuang, your power seems to have enhanced a lot? Fu Hongbo's eyes were full of surprise. He felt that the power of Bailey Hongzhuang was much stronger than before, and it was no longer at the same level. Listening to Fu Hongbo's words, everyone looked at Bailey Hongzhuang with surprise. Lu Huaiyan's eyes flashed with disbelief. Bailey Hongzhuang, your aura. Did you break through to the innate realm? Hearing these words, Xia Zhiqing and the other people were instantly petrified, looking at Bailey Hongzhuang in an odd way. Teacher, what kind of joke is this? They had not seen Bailey Hongzhuang for only half a month. How could she have broken through to the innate realm? Seeing that the two teachers had discovered the change in her strength, Bailey Hongzhuang also smiled and admitted to it. I just broke through to the first level of Hong border. Ah! Listening to Bailey Hongzhuang admit to it, Xia Zhiqing and the others sucked in a breath of cold air. They couldn't believe that what they had heard was true. Bailey Hongzhuang, what good opportunity did you encounter in the past few weeks? Xia Zhiqing could not help but ask. Such a quick upgrade in strength was really enviable. If you thought of the usual speed of cultivation, it would take at least 1 or 2 years to break through to the innate realm. Bailey Hongzhuang did it in only half a month. How could they not envy? Although Zhang Yunfeng and the others did not say it directly like Xia Zhiqing, the envy in their eyes was very obvious. I was previously locked in a stone room. There were a lot of Yuan Ligua in the stone room. I couldn't find a way out. I could only stay inside and cultivate until I absorbed all of the Yuan Ligua, and only then did the stone room open. When the crowd came to understand the reason, their hearts only felt that the luck of Bailey Hongzhuang was too good. Yuan Ligua was a rare treasure. Bailey Hongzhuang was trapped in a place full of Yuan Ligua. Could she be happier? Why was it that stone chambers they saw before were all blank, or the things inside were damaged, and Bailey Hongzhuang directly stumbled into a room full of Yuan Ligua? And the most important thing was that she was actually trapped inside. They had also tried to open the stone room, but they couldn't open it regardless of the method they used. It was equivalent to meaning that all of the Yuan Ligua in the room were destined for Bailey Hongzhuang. After absorbing them all, the stone room will open. What good thing did Bailey Hongzhuang do in her previous life? Such a good thing like Yuan Ligua fell like a pie from heaven right into Bailey Hongzhuang's hands. Hongzhuang, your luck is too good. Xia Zhiqing could not help but admire. I haven't had much gain from this ruin. I thought that ancient monuments are not as precious a treasure as everyone says. Now I see you and I believe that the reputation of ancient monuments is well deserved. Chapter 533 Depressed. Xia Zhiqing, Bailey Hongzhuang's red lips curved up in a shallow smile. She too felt that her harvest was not small. Her strength had improved, and it would be more convenient to do various other things in the future. After all, if strength was low, many things were not convenient to do. Cui Haoyan and the others swallowed the envy and walked to the side. The luck of Bailey Hongzhuang belonged to no one but her. Could they say that they were more worthy of the treasure than her? Bailey Hongzhuang was very good. But right now the circumstances of each person were not the same. This time they came to the ancient ruins together, but the gap between them was already unmistakable. Dong Fengyu looked at Bailey Hongzhuang with a more complicated look, and at the same time, there were other emotions in his eyes. When he first met Bailey Hongzhuang, he did not feel there was any gap between them. He did not expect that Bailey Hongzhuang would only stay at the Tsonglong College for a short while, and the gap between them would get bigger and bigger. Perhaps at first, he was deluded with infatuation, but now he really felt that Di Beichun was the perfect person for Bailey Hongzhuang. In just 2.5 months, Bailey Hongzhuang's strength had surpassed his, and Di Beichun was still waiting, standing in the same place as Bailey Hongzhuang. T/N I have no freaking idea what he means. Zhiqing, You have been in the monument for half a month. Did you have any gains? Bailey Hongzhuang's brows were furrowed. She was a little curious. She had been locked in the stone room since after they passed through the illusion, and SH did not know anything about what happened afterward. The happiest thing for her is that they had good luck. Although they were slightly injured, the problem was not serious and she was relieved. Xia Zhiqing shook her head, and then sighed again. That the weird road before, I was trapped for a long time there. If it wasn't by chance, I wouldn't have come out. I felt so powerless then. How powerful must be the method. We had been walking all that while, and it felt so real. After I came out, many other cultivators had also already come out. I just came, but it turned out that I came out late, and the treasures were already taken away by the others, and I couldn't get anything. Xia Zhiqing shrugged. The only thing I am thankful for is that I haven't thrown away my life here. Hongzhuang, how did you break free from that illusion? That was just a fantasy one. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled and explained. I came out very early, but I was locked inside as soon as I walked into the stone room. Fantasy? Xia Zhiqing raised her voice and thought about it, thinking that the name was very fitting for what she had seen before. Yes, it was a fantasy. I listened to the Yanjia's cultivators, and they aid that you and Di Bei-chun were the first to come out. They wanted to catch up with the of you, but they could not. Xia Zhiqing grinned. In my opinion, the cultivators of these families are not as powerful as rumored to be. Listening to these words, Bailey Hongzhuang immediately understood what Xia Zhiqing meant, but she thought of Di Bei-chun. The heritage of a cultivation family is deep. We have come in contact with nothing but the tip of the iceberg. Bailey Hongzhuang reminded. She knows that Xia Zhiqing had always been very loyal to her, but she does not want Xia Zhiqing to offend some powerful opponents because of her. Hearing the hidden meaning in the words of Bailey Hongzhuang, Xia Zhiqing's face also became serious. She understood that Bailey Hongzhuang was her true friend, and so this reminder was because she cared for her. Chapter 534 Blaming himself. Di Bei-chun, her beautiful and exquisite face showed a faint smile. Xia Zhiqing held Bailey Hongzhuang's hands and seriously said, Hongzhuang, what you mean I understand. You can rest assured. I will not take the initiative to offend them. Seeing that Xia Zhiqing knew what she meant, Bailey Hongzhuang also showed a gentle smile. That's good. In our current situation, we should not have many entanglements with them after all this. In her dark phoenix eyes, a touch of solitude and firmness spread quietly. Now they don't have many encounters, but perhaps in the future, they won't be less. The Lan family, this mysterious and powerful family, she believed they would meet them soon. Hongzhuang, during this time when you were locked in the stone room, Di Bei-chun was worried about you. When we came here, we saw Di Bei-chun standing right outside this door. When there was the slightest movement, he would look there. Han Xiling also questioned him, but Di Bei-chun apparently had all his thoughts on your well-being, and he did not bother much with her. Xia Zhiqing winked towards Bailey Hongzhuang, a trace of a smile on her face, making her feel a bit awkward for a second. I say that Di Bei-chun is a good man, worth spending your life with. Haha, my eyes are still not bad. With the current expression of Xia Zhiqing, Bailey Hongzhuang was also somewhat helpless. This man was really a living treasure. You haven't seen each other for more than half a month. There must be a lot to say. I won't bother you now. Her voice falling, Xia Zhiqing snickered and walked to the other side despite Bailey Hongzhuang's look. She had been here with Hongzhuang for so long. She thought that Di Bei-chun must long have been unable to hold it in. After Xia Zhiqing left, Di Bei-chun slowly walked to Bailey Hongzhuang's side. Nyangzi, were you okay during this time in the stone chamber? The deepest sea eyes were filled with very complex expressions, full of concern, distress and guilt. As early as before entering the monument, he had promised to take care of Bailey Hongzhuang, and never thought that he would make such a mistake. During this time, he had already drowned in guilt countless times, regretted it countless times. If his wife was in danger, he would hate himself. Do you think I was okay in the stone room? Bailey Hongzhuang chuckled, but as soon as she looked up, she was looking into a pair of deep eyes full of embarrassment and pain. Seeing the situation, Bailey Hongzhuang could not help but pause. She was only making a joke with Di Bei-chun, and she never thought that Di Bei-chun would reveal an expression like this. Nyangzi, I am sorry. Di Bei-chun's voice was low and hoarse. I didn't take care of you. Hearing the deep self-blame in Di Bei-chun's words, Bailey Hongzhuang could not help but say, I was very good inside. What happened? It was also part of increasing my strength. You shouldn't feel sadness. Seeing that Di Bei-chun looked so serious, even though it was a joke, Bailey Hongzhuang felt a bit worried. Anything can happen in an ancient monument. You have looked after me well, not to mention my good luck. This was also a chance for me. It is naturally excellent since wifey came out safe and sound. Di Bei-chun saw the look on Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes and his heart softened, and in his heart, he felt more fortunate. Fortunately, his wife was safe and sound otherwise. He really did not know what he would do. He knew very well that his wife had come out safely this time. It was good luck. But it was undeniable that he did not take care of her. Chapter 535 Exact same situation. If he had been careful, Bailey Hongzhuang would not have disappeared from his sights. Anything could happen in an ancient monument, and even some cruel and terrible things were not uncommon. This time he was panicked. He had already sworn a vow that he would never let such a thing happen again. Seeing Di Bei-chun's face, she looked at him a few moments more, before Bailey Hongzhuang finally put down her heart. She didn't want Di Bei-chun to blame himself because of this incident. Perhaps, the master of the monument had already thought of this, and attempted to do such a thing when he designed that mechanism in the stone room. How could they have anticipated it since earlier? How were you in the stone room? Her dark, bright eyes revealed care, and Bailey Hongzhuang asked in a soft voice. When she was trapped in the stone room, she was very much worried about Di Bei-chun's situation too. When she saw Di Bei-chun, she had already given him a once-over. Fortunately, nothing dangerous had happened to Di Bei-chun, and she was relieved. After the sudden appearance of the stone gate that separated you and me, I found that there was no more sound in the stone room, and even the voices of the two cultivators who had kept yelling outside the stone room's door had disappeared. I thought that you were caught in a dangerous situation, but after seeing that the stone room was quiet, I felt a little relieved, but I had still not found a way to leave the stone tomb. I could only absorb all of the Yuanli gup in the room, and finally find the Yuanli gua with a key in it. Speaking of this, Di Bei-chun's eyes suddenly brightened. I found a box made of black iron in the stone room. Was there a sword in the box? The more Bailey Hongzhuang heard Di Bei-chun talk, the more she was sure that his situation before had been exactly like hers. The things in the stone room were split in two, and the sudden appearance of the stone gate was only to separate her from Di Bei-chun. This must have been designated by the master of the ancient monument. Therefore, it was not that Di Bei-chun did not take care of her, but that the master of the monument had already made up their mind to separate them. Even if Di Bei-chun was right by her side, the monument's master must have some other way to separate them. When he heard Bailey Hongzhuang's question, Di Bei-chun's eyes flashed with a touch of surprise. He asked, "How do you know?" Bailey Hongzhuang smiled, and the beautiful and enchanting smile bloomed on her delicate face, pleasing to the eyes. It was unforgettable, because I encountered the exact same situation in the stone room as you. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled lightly. The same? Di Bei-chun was stunned, and he couldn't help but think of the box he had seen Bailey Hongzhuang take before he and she were separated. So isn't it? Bailey Hongzhuang smiled and nodded. Yes, this should have been deliberately planned by the monument's master. The things in the stone room were divided into two. After hearing this, Di Bei-chun's brow wrinkled, and his handsome face was full of thoughtfulness. So why did the Lord want to do this? Seeing the current situation, the two of them had a big gain. Even if other cultivators also have a lot of gains, there was still a big gap between their harvest. Bailey Hongzhuang shrugged. I don't know, but I think that the master of this monument must have some deep thoughts, and we just haven't found it yet. Chapter 536 is not simple, Hongzhuang. While Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Bei-chun's thoughts were on the deep meaning that the arrangement of the ancient monument's owner may have, the eyes of other people could not help but fall on them. In the short period of half a month, Bailey Hongzhuang broke through to the first step of the Hong border? Yanling Xian was in disbelief. This progress was too great. He thought that breaking through from the intermediate stage mysterious heaven realm to the first level of the Hong border took a long time. It seems that Bailey Hongzhuang chanced upon a great opportunity in the monument, so she could directly break through from the acquired realm to the innate realm. Huang Fuhui said faintly and with sorrow. It seems that their luck was not as good as Bailey Hongzhuang's. If this opportunity had befallen him, his strength would have been improved again, going beyond Yanling Shuang and the others. Lin Yirou's pretty face was also filled with emotions, even though she had never talked to Bailey Hongzhuang before. It now seemed that Bailey Hongzhuang was not as simple as she imagined. Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen were the first to pass through the illusion. Just from this point, the strength cannot be underestimated. It can only be said that we were too slow in breaking the illusion. Yanling Xian frowned. Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen were together. Why do you think that it is Bailey Hongzhuang who should not be underestimated? Maybe it was because of the merits of Di Beichen that they were able to walk out of the illusion. Thinking of Di Beichen's strength, they were all convinced of it. After all, Di Beichen was famous since before, and was well known among the young cultivators in the Shengxian continent. They also admired him. It was normal if they were defeated by the hands of Di Beichen. This was difficult for them to accept, but if they say that they had lost to some unknown person, they felt it unacceptable. Lin Yirou's eyebrows rose slightly, and the calm and quiet face was full of a deep smile. Looking at Lin Yirou's expression, Yanling Xian confirmed that Lin Yirou knew something that he did not know. He couldn't help but ask, Lin Yirou, if you know something, don't hide, just tell me. Miss Lin, you know it would be better to say it. Let us also analyze it. Huang Fuhui was also attracted. Lin Yirou looked at the curious expression of Yanling Xian and Huang Fuhui, and the curve of her lips rose slightly. Before hearing the cultivators of the family talk about the illusion, did you know that the situation we encountered before was a fantasy? Yanling Xian and Huang Fuhui looked at each other. At first glance at each other, they shook their head. I didn't know. That's exactly it. What do you mean? Yanling Xian frowned. Why did he not understand the meaning of the words Lin Yirou said? I heard the conversation between Han Xiling and Di Beichen, and Di Beichen said that the situation they had seen before was an illusion. She didn't know it. He told her what it was. This proves that Bailey Hongzhuang knew it from before. The things she knows are no less than what we know. Perhaps it is even more than us. With the voice of Lin Yirou falling, the faces of Yanling Xian and Huang Fuhui also became dignified. So it seems that the secrets Bailey Hongzhuang held were really a lot. As a child of a cultivation family, they know a lot of things, but for this illusion, it was really the first time they saw it. And it was their first time even hearing of it. Perhaps Bailey Hongzhuang happens to know just this special thing. Yanling Xian said slowly. Lin Yirou chuckled softly. The cultivators of the families do not know it was an illusion, they just thought that they were in a fantasy. Chapter 537 Hate. Han Xiling. As soon as she said this, Yanling Xian and Huang Fuhui's expressions suddenly changed. They thought that the word illusion was spread after the two cultivators of the families judged it. It could be seen from Lin Yirou's meaning that the first person who discovered the illusion was Bailey Hongzhuang. Then according to your words, Di Beichen and Bailey Hongzhuang could get out of the illusion first. It was because of Bailey Hongzhuang? Yanling Xian's eyes revealed his incredulity. This was impossible. How could the young miss of a general's family know so many things? Otherwise, who is it? Lin Yirou asked. With your intelligence, you should not deceive yourself. Yanling Xian looked slightly different, as Lin Yirou said. They could have such a status in their families, they won't be fools. There was absolutely no need to deceive themselves. It was most important to recognize reality. Nowadays, everything was made excitable by Bailey Hongzhuang. Plus, with the acupuncture technique displayed by Bailey Hongzhuang before, it could be seen that she was not an easy character. Huang Fuhui looked blankly, then shook his head. I said that the woman that Di Beichen likes must definitely not be a normal person. Now it seems that what I thought was really right. Ji Yin'er also heard the conversation between Lin Yirou and the others, but now she had no room for any words. Although he did not believe that Bailey Hongzhuang could be so powerful, Bailey Hongzhuang had saved her life before. If she were to fight with Bailey Hongzhuang, there was no doubt that everyone would think of her as a villain who was just envious. Since this was the case, Ji Yin'er was unwilling. After all, this time she really had lost too much of face. Lin Yirou and Huang Fuhui were still slightly better, but Yin Lingxian was definitely a guy who does not mind revealing hidden matters. She believed that at the end of this expedition to the ancient monument, Yin Lingxian would definitely spread rumors of her and the things which happened here. At this time, she felt a big headache coming as she thought about how to deal with this problem. Han Shiling's face was leisurely and indifferent, and she always had a light attitude towards Lin Yirou's conversation and seemed to never put it in her heart. However, as long as anyone looked carefully at Han Shiling at this moment, they would find that her hands were tightly clutching her clothes, and the pair of autumn-spring-like watery eyes were filled with unsettled emotions. Di Beichun had not rested for 3 days and 3 nights, because of fear that Bailey Hongzhuang had met with some mishap. His eyes were always locked onto the stone door. Even if she talked to Di Beichun, he either answered coldly or faintly, as if he had lost his heart. This was the first time she had seen Di Dage so worried about a person. In the past, apart from the sovereign, Di Dage had the same attitude towards all others. He would be unfeeling, unbothered. She knew this because Di Beichun did not care about other people at all, and she had been trying to become the person that Di Beichun cares about, but she had not succeeded. Instead, she found another woman who could make Di Beichun reveal such a panicked expression. When she thought of Di Dage's expression at that time, she felt that someone had stabbed a knife into her heart and could not breathe her. Now she was hearing how good Bailey Hongzhuang was, how she was not simple, her mood could be imagined. She didn't believe that Bailey Hongzhuang was anything special. She was just a normal young miss from a general's family. Di Dage must have been blinded by lard to see her. Chapter 538 High-Profile Love Show. Han Shiling mocked in her heart. Lin Yirou and the others thought that they were smart, but they were actually just a bunch of fools. Completely ignorant of the prestige of Di Dage, they only felt it was impossible to like an ordinary woman with Di Beichun's abilities, so they looked at Bailey Hongzhuang so highly. In fact, the situation of Di Dage in the past 3 years was clear to her. She could almost imagine what kind of dog-blood feelings were between Di Dage and Bailey Hongzhuang. Di Dage was nothing more than a little depressed after his injury, and Bailey Hongzhuang just happened to be with him. With her position, she naturally had to stay at Tiangang Zone to cultivate. She couldn't stay by Di Dage's site in Fengbo country, and Bailey Hongzhuang had just taken advantage of the separated days between her and Di Dage. He was hers, and she will never allow others to steal her things. Thinking of this, Han Shiling did not hesitate, and walked to the side of Di Beichun and Bailey Hongzhuang. Her pretty, refined face was like an elegant lotus, and with a pleasant smile, Han Shiling revealed an expression of concern over Di Beichun's pallor. Di Dage, these days you have not had a good rest. It is better to eat something than get a good rest. Di Beichun looked at the food handed over by Han Shiling, looking at Han Shiling with indifference, and said, "Shiling, you can eat it yourself. I have food prepared here." Hearing this, Han Shiling's expression became stiff. The smile on her pretty face was a bit unnatural, but she quickly disguised her look. "Di Dage, these are what you had liked to eat at the sect. You can eat it." Seeing that Han Shiling was so insistent, Di Beichun took it and said, "Shiling, thank you." The curve of Han Shiling's lips became slightly wider. However, it was not until Han Shiling's smile had completely bloomed when Di Beichun's words made her smile freeze on her lips. "Nyangzi, these are special snacks from Tiangang Zone. How about you taste it?" Di Beichun looked at his side to Bailey Hongzhuang, the incomparable handsome face with a gentle and caring smile. Obviously, in his eyes, Bailey Hongzhuang was the most beautiful. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at Di Beichun a little strangely. She didn't know if Di Beichun was doing this deliberately, but such an attitude would obviously make Han Shiling extremely uncomfortable. It's hard to think. Was it necessary to let Han Shiling see such a show? For a moment, Bailey Hongzhuang also had the thought that Di Beichen was really evil, but since Di Beichen had done this, she would also take advantage of it. Okay, let me try it. Bailey Hongzhuang smirked before smiling, taking a piece and putting it in her mouth. This taste, Bailey Hongzhuang's mood instantly brightened. This Tiangang Zong was not only strong, but even the taste of their food was very good. As the master of an aristocratic family, she used to have a lot of good things, but after crossing over, she did not live as luxuriously as before. In order to improve her strength as soon as possible, she put all her energy into cultivation, and she did not care much about food. Yes, very delicious. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled. Looking at the cute and playful look of Bailey Hongzhuang, the expression of care in Di Beichen's eyes also deepened. If you like it, I will take you to Tiangang Zone to taste more of these snacks in the future. Han Xiling had already been annoyed, but when she heard Di Beichen say this, she really couldn't believe it. How could her glorious Di Dage become like this? Chapter 539. Can it be more exaggerated? Not only Han Xiling, but on the other side, all the others and even Ji Yuner were looking at the interaction between Di Beichen and Bailey Hongzhuang with an unbelievable look. Oh my god! Did they hear it wrong? The Di Beichen, who had always been so cold usually, was now so gently feeding Bailey Hongzhuang? Can this be more exaggerated? With what happened this time, they were having doubts whether this man in front of them was the same as before. Now it's over. Di Beichen really fell in love this time. In front of everyone's faces, he is caring for Bailey Hongzhuang. It is absolutely true love. Yan Lingxian felt a bit emotional, but his smile was proud. Since Di Beichen was so true to Bailey Hongzhuang, there should be no possibility between him and Han Xiling. So was there still a chance for him? How could Di Gongzi become like this? Ji Yuner's slender eyebrows were knotted. This was really unbelievable. In the past, she felt that Di Beichen treated everyone with a cold temperament. Only Han Xiling was different. It seemed now that although Di Beichen really was different towards Han Xiling, it was still completely different from his treatment of Bailey Hongzhuang. Was it really like everyone said, that people will become different once they meet someone they really like? Haha, take this show of love. Han Xiling. Xiaobai laughed proudly. He looked at Di Beichen, feeling that the more he looked, the more handsome he became. Yes, die of jealousy and madness. This man can only be master's man, and others are like playthings. Xiaohei said even more happily. Di Beichen's performance made them sure that they had not read this person wrongly, otherwise, these young masters would really give him a good meal. Baisher had now returned to the Chaos Ring. The energy in the demonic core of the Qing Tian Mo alligator was very filling, and Baisher had also consumed a certain amount of Yuan Ligua. There was no problem with having a breakthrough. Han Xiling was stiff, and looked at the two speaking sweetly to each other. After a moment of anxiety, her face flashed with a light expression. Bailey Hongzhuang faintly looked at Han Xiling. She had to say that this Han Xiling's camouflage ability was indeed good. If it were changed to an ordinary woman, they couldn't help but worry about it after seeing situations like this. Han Xiling could still pretend that the thing had never happened. This alone proved her to be stronger than a lot of women. Looking at her posture, it was clear that Han Xiling was preparing to end any third party, and there were no plans of leaving. I'll go see what's wrong with the closed stone door. You haven't had a good rest these few days. Take a break for a while. Bailey Hongzhuang said with care. Yushi had heard from Ji Qing that Di Beichen had not rested for a few days because he was worried about her safety. Di Beichen must have been very hurried in the stone chamber too. Otherwise, he could not have absorbed all the energy in the Yuan Ligua and leave the stone room in such a short period of time. Hearing these words, Di Beichen looked deeply at Bailey Hongzhuang and saw that she was not the least bit unhappy. Instead, she was worried about his appearance, and he finally let go of the worry in his heart. You be careful. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly and chuckled. Okay. Chapter 540. Bailey Gunyang become friends? Seeing that Bailey Hongzhuang had left, Han Xiling couldn't help but stare at Bailey Hongzhuang's figure. An indescribable resentment accumulated in her heart. Han Xiling had always been proud, and she had always been a star among the many talented cultivators. She never felt she would lose to anyone. However, in terms of feelings, she lost to such an empty vase-like woman. Well, it will not be long before Bailey Hongzhuang disappears from in front of my eyes. Han Xiling comforted herself. There were too many people here now. She could not ruin her image. A small country's general's miss, if she wanted to kill her, her means were very good. Bailey Hongzhuang slowly walked in front of the closed doors, everyone's eyes on her. Many cultivators had gathered in front of the stone door, and constantly exploring to find ways to open the stone door. More cultivators were sitting around the stone door lazily. During this time, they had seen every part of the stone door, but they had not found any organ. Not only that, but they also joined forces to attack the stone door. But the stone door was harder than they thought. No matter what they did, the stone door did not open. Seeing Bailey Hongzhuang appear, the cultivators of Jijia could not help but open up a position for her. After all, previously Bailey Hongzhuang had saved Ji Yuner, and she had been kind to them. The disciples of Tian Gangzong also let a position open. Although they followed Han Xiling, the status of Di Beichen's wife was not simple. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at the stone door in front of her. This stone door was the same as the one they had encountered previously in the monument. Apart from the slight difference in height, there was no difference between the two. In addition, the master's way of thinking was not the same as other people. She had to think in a place where other people hadn't, and it would only then be possible to find a way to open the stone door. Just as Bailey Hongzhuang was looking at the organ in the stone door, Lin Ro, don't know when, had walked up to Bailey Hongzhuang's side. Bailey Gunyang, I am Lin Ro. Lin Ro said softly and courteously. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang slowly turned and looked at Lin Ro. Hello, Lin Gunyang. For Lin Yiru, her impression was quite profound. Although Lin Ro did not show much, nor had she ever had an exchange with her. But from the sum of the things happening later, she was able to judge that Lin Ro was a very intelligent woman. If she was not smart, she would not be able to gain her stats in the family with her gentle and soft appearance. On the contrary, it seemed absolutely possible that there would be many people bullying her. I admire Bailey Gunyang's abilities very much. I wonder if I can become friends with you? Lin Ro said softly. The gentle and modest appearance was comforting and relaxed, and there was no reason to refuse. Bailey Hongzhuang's red lips curved in a slight smile. The look in her eyes did not change as she exchanged words with Lin Ro. She said lightly, Of course, it is my pleasure to be friends with Lin Gunyang. Although she used the same word friends, whereas Xia Zhiqing was a true friend, this Lin Ro was nothing but here for the benefits. If she guessed it well, Lin Ro's relationship with Han Xiling should not be good, so she would come to her to be friends. Seeing that Bailey Hongzhuang had so easily agreed, Lin Ro was also a little surprised. Originally worried that Bailey Hongzhuang's temperament would be very difficult to get along with, it now seemed she was just thinking too much. Empty vase-like woman. A woman who only looks beautiful, but has no substance whatsoever. HXL is calling BHZ substanceless. Gunyang means girl, young woman, young lady, daughter, paternal aunt, old. For this, should I translate this as Gunyang, or change it to Miss? From the form of address Bailey Gunyang to Miss Bailey. However, this term is used later by a lot of elders who are referring to BHZ as Bailey girl. And it will be awkward to use the word Miss there, because an elder would not refer to her as Miss, especially if it's someone close like a teacher, or use the term girl and Miss according to who is speaking. Chapter 541 Reminder. Lin Ro, since Miss Bailey has become my friend, then I would like to advise you. I hope you will not blame me for saying more than I should. Lin Ro said. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled. Please say. Since it is a kind reminder, how can I think so? Han Xiling does not have such a gentle temper since Miss Bailey is together with Di Gongzi. Then you have to be careful of Han Xiling. You can't be the least bit careless. Lin Ro lowered her voice and said it in a low tone that only she and Bailey Hongzhuang could hear. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyebrows slowly rose. It seemed that her guess was correct. Lin Ro must have some enmity with Han Xiling that others did not know. However, There was nothing wrong with what Lin Yirou had said. Han Xiling was definitely not a fuel-efficient lamp. The reason why Han Xiling had always been pretending to be gentle and had never done anything to her was that she was smart and did not want to show her bad side in front of Bewitching. Once this expedition to the ancient monument was over, Han Xiling would definitely take action, and her troubles would start. However, trouble was also a driving force for progress. If Han Xiling sent trouble to her, then she would also regard them as honing stones. And to hone her own strength, it was a good choice. Thank you, Miss Lin, for reminding me. I will be more careful. Her beautiful face that could ruin cities had a gentle smile, and Bailey Hong Zhuang looked light and serious. Since Lin Yirou had given her a kind reminder, she would also accept Lin Yirou's feelings. Because there was no conflict of interest between the two of them, she believed that Lin Yirou would not harm her. After all, the enemy of your enemy was a friend, and their common opponent was Han Xiling. Yanling Xian and the others saw that Lin Yirou suddenly started a whisper conversation with Bali Hong Zhuang, and there was a look of surprise on their faces. Lin Yirou's performance had been very different from usual this time. They didn't know why this was. After warning Bailey Hong Zhuang about Han Xiling, she stopped talking and went back to where she was before. The ability to have a conversation with Bailey Hong Zhuang was enough to make their relation closer. But it was not enough. However, for now, it was a good choice to have made good relations. Xia Zhiqing could not help but walk to Bailey Hong Zhuang's side and ask, Hong Zhuang, what did Lin Yirou say to you just now? When these words were said, Xia Zhiqing felt that she seemed like a busybody, and could not help but explain, I just think that these families are not good news. So for what I asked, if it is not convenient for you, don't answer. Looking at Xia Zhiqing, who was rushing in panic, Bailey Hong Zhuang couldn't help but chuckle. Zhiqing, I know your thoughts, you don't have to explain. Ah! Xia Zhiqing still had some concerns, but after seeing that Bailey Hong Zhuang's look was not fake, only then she was relieved. Well, I was afraid that you misunderstood me. With the relationship between us two, how could I misunderstand you? Bailey Hong Zhuang smiled and patted Xia Zhiqing's shoulder. It was clear Zhiqing had no scheming thoughts. Lin Yirou just reminded me some things, and she had no other intention, don't worry. Hearing this, Xia Zhiqing was relieved. As long as you are fine. I was just worried that Lin Yirou harbored malicious intentions. Chapter 542 Stone Door. Two grooves. Bailey Hong Zhuang's lips had a warm smile. You understand what I mean. Hong Zhuang, you are much smarter than me. I believe you must understand things more than I. Xia Zhiqing smiled and looked at her with eyes filled with a little bit of embarrassment. She was so concerned about trouble, she forgot Bailey Hong Zhuang's smarts and wisdom. Seeing the situation, Bailey Hong Zhuang's smile also became wider by a bit. It was a great gain to come to the Zhonglan College, and to know such a friend like Xia Zhiqing. Bailey Hong Zhuang knocked on the closed stone room door, and listened for any difference in sound. Hong Zhuang, no need to knock. In the past 10 days, everyone has almost checked every trace of this stone door in this place. Even the door was not let go, and end mechanisms have been found. Xia Zhiqing shrugged. During this time, so many people had already used the methods that they can think of, but there were still no gains. Hearing these words, Bailey Hong Zhuang nodded. Everyone stayed here for so long, and they had tried everything. So, what else could it be that everyone missed? The pools in her phoenix eyes were shimmering with wise thoughts, and Bailey Hong Zhuang looked at every part of the stone door. Since the stone door was closed, there must be a way to open it, but everyone had not noticed it all this while. I really admire the thoughts of this monument's master. This mechanism is so hidden, so many people can't find it. Xia Zhiqing's face was full of helplessness. Whether it had been the previous illusions, or the stone door in front of her, it really made her admire this monument's master. It was too weak facing this ancient monument with her IQ and ability. At this moment, Bai Junyu had walked to Xia Zhiqing's side. The monument's masters are well-deserved, strong tyrants. Their thoughts are naturally not so easy to guess. It is normal for us to take some time to find it. Bailey Hong Zhuang looked at Bai Junyu, who was standing behind Xia Zhiqing, and looking at her. The smile deep in her eyes became little brighter. After half a month, she felt that the relationship between Bai Junyu and Ji Qing was quite close. Bailey Hong Zhuang, you just came out of the stone door. Don't you need to rest for a while? Bai Junyu asked. Bailey Hong Zhuang shook her head slightly. No, I had been cultivating in the stone room. I am not tired at all. In fact, for half a month, she had only stayed in the same position. Her body had become a bit stiff. She only wanted to be active right now. Suddenly, Bailey Hong Zhuang's gaze fell on the doorknob of the stone door. Under the two rings, there were two grooves with similar circular shapes. What is this? Bailey Hong Zhuang frowned. Bai Junyu glanced at the thing pointed by Bailey Hong Zhuang and smiled, saying, This is just a decoration. It has no effect. Everyone has already studied it. Xia Jiqing also nodded slightly. This similar circular groove was inscribed with patterns. There was no use besides decoration. However, Bailey Hong Zhuang's gaze was firmly solidified on the two grooves, because she thought that the patterns on these two grooves were somewhat familiar. Exactly, where had she seen this pattern? Bailey Hong Zhuang constantly thought in her mind. She did not see many things in the ancient monument. The next moment, Bailey Hong Zhuang had a revelation, and she already had an idea in her mind. Chapter 543 is of great significance. Bewitching Master, did you think of something? Seeing the change of expression on Bailey Hong Zhuang's face, Xiaohei couldn't help but ask. He had stayed with Master for so long. He also had a certain understanding of the changes in Master's demeanors. Bailey Hong Zhuang's eyes held a trace of appreciation for Xiaohei, but her thin lips were slightly pressed together. Xiaohei, Xiaobai, do you think that the shape of the grove and the hilt of the glass sword, Luli, may have some similarities? Listening to Bailey Hong Zhuang's words, Xiaohei and Xiaobai couldn't help thinking about the appearance of Luli in their mind. With this thought, the eyes of both the fluff balls were gleaming brightly. It is very similar, Xiaohei said excitedly. Master, I will confirm it in the chaos ring. They only noticed the blade of the glass sword. They didn't pay much attention to the hilt, but they felt it was very similar. Was it still necessary to confirm it? Bailey Hong Zhuang nodded slightly. All right, tell me after confirming the result. Next, Bailey Hong Zhuang faked brushing her hair and putting the black bead from her hair into the cosmos bag. Noticing that no one was paying attention, she directly put it into the chaos ring. Since there was storage space in the chaos ring, she put all important things into the chaos ring. After all, a cosmos bag had the possibility of being robbed, but the chaos ring did not. After she got the glass sword, she put Luli directly into the chaos ring. So now she needed Xiaohei's help to help her confirm. After Xiaohei entered the chaos ring, he did not delay. He immediately found Luli. After careful comparison, Xiaohei's face showed a smug expression. Master, you were right. The groove is exactly the same as the hilt of the glass sword. She got Xiaohei's answer, and the smile on Bailey Hong Zhuang's lips was a little more confident. So, these two grooves must be correspondingly for the sword she and Di Beichun had found. However, with the wisdom and genius of Di Beichun, it was wrong that he had not found this out. Ji Qing, did Di Beichun look for the mechanism on this stone door these days? Bailey Hong Zhuang asked. Xia Jiqing shook her head. I didn't see him coming to the stone door. In the past few days, Di Beichun has always been worried about your safety. He did not pay attention to other things. He didn't even glance at the stone door. Bai Junyu's face was full of emotion. This made the deeply aware of Di Beichun's feelings for Bailey Hong Zhuang. They were really an enviable pair. Turns out so. Bailey Hong Zhuang was stunned. She thought that it was impossible for Di Beichun to not find this out with his wisdom and talent. But it turned out that he had never noticed these past few days. When she thought of this, Bailey Hong Zhuang's heart was also touched. Most of the top talented cultivators in Shengxian continent put their strength for getting a more important position. Di Beichun had not much interest in the treasures of the monument, and he only cared for her. As soon as she thought that Di Beichun had not rested for several days, Bailey Hong Zhuang decided to not tell him this news. After Di Beichun had had a good rest and adjusted his conditions, she would tell him her discovery. What is the meaning of this arrangement by the monument's master? Bailey Hongzhuang still had many doubts. Whether it was the previous stone room or the current situation, obviously, the owner of the monument had deliberately arranged for two people to join to open the stone door. Chapter 544 is not worthy, not what you said. From the exact same opportunity in the stone room to the time when the two people would have to come together to open the stone door. Is it true that the inheritance of the monument would be handed over to two people? Or, this inheritance would choose one of the two? If it was the first one, it was naturally excellent. But if it was the second, the situation may become cruel. For the time, Bailey Hongzhuang could not determine what kind of thoughts the master had. The only thing she can be certain of is that she and Bewitching had more opportunities in the monument than other cultivators. Not only that, but the chances of the two of them getting the ultimate inheritance was also larger than other cultivators. And no matter what the final result was, at least they were now in a favorable condition. As for the final situation, they would only take it step by step. Just as Bailey Hongzhuang was thinking about this, a clear and indifferent voice drifted to her ear. Miss Bailey, I don't know if you found the mechanism? Bailey Hongzhuang looked away from the stone door, turning around and looked at Han Xiling. Her exquisite face had a light smile, saying, Miss Han could not find it, how could I have? Listening to Bailey Hongzhuang's answer, Han Xiling's eyes changed a bit, but her face was still indifferent. That may not be the case. Miss Bailey is so intelligent and has extraordinary medical skills. It is normal to find things we can't find. Everyone saw that Han Xiling and Bailey Hongzhuang were standing together, and their expressions became a bit strange. So far, this was the first time Han Xiling and Bailey Hongzhuang had any exchange. Although they had not conversed before, and there had never been a conflict, everyone understood that among the people present, the most hateful relationship would be between these two women. It's just that neither of them were simple characters, and their stances were not clear. Bailey Hongzhuang's red lips curved in a slight smile. Miss Han has praised me. When these words were said, Bailey Hongzhuang did not intend to talk too much with Han Xiling. This kind of disguise, poisonous snake, she was too lazy to waste her time on. However, just as Bailey Hongzhuang walked by Han Xiling's words drifted over into her ears. Do you really think Dage like you? The scornful words revealed a bit of disdain, but Han Xiling's face still had a smile. It was just like the two people were saying hello to each other. Bailey Hongzhuang's footsteps stopped, and her face was also clouded, but she spoke lightly. I don't know what more Miss Han has to see. Han Xiling wanted to test Bailey Hongzhuang, and so she only warned her. She wanted to keep the image she had in Dage's eyes. There was no need to disguise it in front of Bailey Hongzhuang. However, Bailey Hongzhuang's answer made her somewhat surprised. Such a light-hearted answer revealed confidence and determination. So far, she had rarely seen a woman who was so confident in front of her. Han Xiling's heart was full of turbulent thoughts, but not even a little of it was revealed on her face. With your position, you are not worthy of Dage. Han Xiling's dark eyes shone with a cold, warning light. She hoped that Bailey Hongzhuang could break off their relationship on her own and make her have less trouble. Bailey Hongzhuang's mouth pulled up in an enchanting arc, containing indescribable charm, and the exquisite face that could fell cities was full of infinite brilliance, making people feel amazed. Without a match, the final result can't be asserted by as Han. If you are so worthy, why is the person around Bewitching now me, and not you? Chapter 545 Confrontation between rivals. Bailey Hongzhuang faintly looked at Han Xiling. Her phoenix eyes narrowed, and holding a smile, and her natural appearance was full of pride. Even if she had such a thing like a status, it was just an excuse. She was not at all lethal to her. 1. If Han Xiling thought that just this, too, would be able to deter her, then she really had been looking down her. She didn't want to tear Han Xiling's facade directly, but since Han Xiling had already taken the lead to provoke a fight, she would not swallow a bitter pill. 3. Bailey Hongzhuang had always liked to face her enemies head-on. Hearing the sarcasm in Bailey Hongzhuang's words, Han Shiling's face had quietly stiffened. She had always been high above for, such as the stars, and now someone dared to even mock her? Forcibly suppressing her anger, Han Shiling's eyes held a hint of more chill. D-Dage had just been down 5. These 3 years, so you took advantage of it. But this is definitely not the final result. Bailey Hongzhuang glanced, seeing the unsettlement in Han Shiling's eyes. It seemed that in Han Shiling's heart, Bewitching really occupied a very important position and weight. Otherwise, with Han Shiling's character, her mood change would not be so great. In that case, it is better to wait until that day comes. Then come back and talk to me. For now though, this defeat is yours. Bailey Hongzhuang had a proud and glamorous smile, and turning again, she walked in the direction where Di Beichen was. For more than a decade, Han Shiling had never won Di Beichen's heart, and now it was even more impossible. But Han Shiling did not see this. Perhaps Han Shiling had already understood this, but refused to admit it. Han Shiling looked at Bailey Hongzhuang's back, and the hands under her sleeves gradually fisted, and the killing intent in her eyes was even thicker. Damn Bailey Hongzhuang. Does she really think that she was a great person? With her capabilities, trying to kill Bailey Hongzhuang was as simple as crushing an ant. Xia Zhiqing glanced coldly at Han Shiling. From the first moment she saw Han Shiling, she had no good impression of her. Now it seemed that this Han Shiling was really an annoying individual. Everyone's eyes fell on Bailey Hongzhuang, and Han Shiling looking at them. The outcome of the first round seemed to be that Bailey Hongzhuang had won. Yin Lingxian went to Han Shiling's side, and there was an expression of concern on his handsome face. Miss Han, are you okay? Han Shiling looked at Yin Lingxian and asked, Why wouldn't I feel good? Hearing this, an embarrassed expression appeared on Yin Lingxian's face. Han Shiling's question made him wonder how to answer it. I just care about you. Thank you for your care, Yin Gongzi, but I am very good. Han Shiling's elegant face revealed a little alienation and indifference, and after faintly saying this sentence, she did not say more and went back to Tian Gangzong's team. Ji Yuner and the others looked at Yin Lingxian's appearance and couldn't help but smile. Yin Lingxian, you should look at yourself a little less. 6. Han Shiling is a person with arrogance higher than the sky. Other than Di Gongzi, she will not put others in her eyes at all. Ji Yuner smiled in ridicule. She also had a lot of contact with Han Shiling. This woman simply thought herself to be beyond others. 7. And other people would simply not be put in front of her eyes. Listening to Ji Yuner's words, Yin Lingxian's face was a bit ugly, but he had to admit that there indeed was a big gap between him and Di Beichen. Chapter 546 Conflicts, Common Thoughts. Ji Yuner. Even if I am not as good, so what of it? There are many people who Han Shiling considers as sand in front of her eyes. But the person who lost in front of a general family's young miss has no one but you. The time Yin Lingxian had liked Han Shiling was not short, although he always knew that Han Shiling liked Di Beichen. But in his heart, he still dreamt of this goddess. Now Ji Yuner said such things to him in front of everyone. He only felt that his dignity had been trampled on, so his words became more and more unkind. Ji Yuner did not expect Yin Lingxian to say such things, and could not help but pause. Yin Lingxian, you are a bit too much. Ji Yuner stood up and looked at Yin Lingxian with anger and sorrow. Her wounds from the previous encounter with Bailey Hongzhuang were still fresh. Now with his unkind words, Yin Lingxian cut at her scars again. It was really an awful feeling. How am I too much? Yin Lingxian did not let go. He didn't even talk much to Ji Yuner generally. Now though, since Ji Yuner was looking to trouble him, he would naturally not back down. For a while, Yin Lingxian showed his proud side. Neither Ji Yuner or Yin Lingxian would yield, and just like this a knot formed in between them. Bailey Hongzhuang sat down beside Di Beichen's side. At this moment, Di Beichen's eyes were closed, and he was resting for a few days. He looked relaxed at this moment. Han Shiling seemed to be throwing provocative looks at Bailey Hongzhuang. The men who pursued her, both in quality and quantity, far exceeded Bailey Hongzhuang. The smile on Bailey Hongzhuang's lips bloomed. This kind of thing may be a proud thing for other women, but for her, she had no feelings for this at all. I don't know what Han Xiling is so proud of. Doesn't our master also have a lot of people pursuing her? Xiao Hei's hands fisted, his face showing an indignant expression. Xiao Bai shook his head. Let her be arrogant. Di Bei Chun is already crazy for our master. Listening to Xiao Bai's words, Xiao Hei nodded. That is, I shouldn't be angry with such a thing. The cultivators were still looking at the stone door with great attention. Here should be the biggest treasure in the monument. If they gave up just like this, it was simply impossible to get it. Just by seeing Bailey Hongzhuang's harvest, they were already very jealous. Not to mention that Bailey Hongzhuang's gains were only from the outer part of the monument, and the most important treasures had not yet appeared. This monument is too strange. There is no mechanism here at all. God knows what the master of this monument is thinking. There is no mechanism on the stone door. According to me, it is better for everyone to forcibly open the stone door. Some cultivators have been tempted to do this after searching the walls for a long time. Since they can't do it with skill, they could only use brute force. This idea may not be feasible. I tried it before. This stone door is indestructible. We can't break it with our strength. The faces of the people showed their frustration. They thought that they would have great luck in the monument, but they were now trapped outside a stone door. This kind of thing where the gold and silver treasures were right in front of them, but they couldn't reach it. It was really maddening. Teacher, if we don't open the stone door, we can't leave here? Xia Zhiqing asked. After so many days, she had no confidence in opening the stone door, but it was good as long as she could leave safely. Chapter 547. Wifey is really smart. The moment Xia Zhiqing said these words, everyone's expressions changed a bit. They had just thought about opening this stone door, but never thought about whether they could leave this monument without opening the stone door. After all, after they walked into the monument, the gates of the monument closed, and they could not go back. It seemed that it is very likely that they would not leave if they did not open the stone door. Lu Huaiyan's face also had a hesitant expression. I am not sure. Xia Zhiqing's face was a bit ugly. Their life really wasn't in their own hands anymore. As soon as they entered the monument. What do we do them? Xia Zhiqing's face was bitter. If they couldn't open the stone door, they would have to stay here. There must be a way to open this stone door. We will look for it patiently. Fu Hongbo comforted. And there was no way they would give up after reaching till here. After Xia Zhiqing's reminder, the other cultivators worked harder to find the mechanism of the stone door. They wouldn't accept staying and dying here. Bailey Hongzhuang lightly patted Xia Zhiqing's shoulder, indicating that Xia Zhiqing does not need to worry. Seeing this, Xia Zhiqing looked at Bailey Hongzhuang strangely. Did this mean Bailey Hongzhuang knew something? Hongzhuang knew. Not waiting for Xia Zhiqing to complete her sentence, Bailey Hongzhuang took the lead and nodded. Don't worry for now, let Di Beichen have a good rest. Xia Zhiqing looked at Di Beichen, then looked at her. Then she came to understand something, hee. By June you saw the whispering between Xia Zhiqing and Bailey Hongzhuang. He had some doubts in his heart, but he never asked. When Di Beichen had rested enough, he opened his eyes and saw Bailey Hongzhuang sitting beside him. A comforting smile spread across his handsome and unparalleled face. You didn't rest? Bailey Hongzhuang shook her head. I was meditating for half a month before coming out. I don't have to rest. Yes, I found the mechanism of this stone door. Hearing this, there was a brightness in Di Beichen's eyes. Although he had always known that his wife was very smart, so many cultivators had studied this stone door for so many days and found nothing. But it only took a short time for Bailey Hongzhuang to find it. How did you find it out? Bailey Hongzhuang smiled mysteriously. If you go see it, you will find it. Oh, Di Beichen's eyebrows rose. Why is wifey so sure? You come with me now. When you see it, you will know. Bailey Hongzhuang took the lead to get up, and with a smile looked at Di Beichen. Seeing that sunny smile, Di Beichen's eyes flashed with happiness, and he immediately stood up, and along with his wife, he went to the place where the stone door was. When everyone saw that Bailey Hongzhuang had come again, they wouldn't help but feel a bit weird. After all, previously to Bailey Hongzhuang had been there, and in a short time, she came back. It was not until Bewitching had rested that she came over. Was it that she had discovered something? Xiaoji and the others looked at each other and immediately went towards the stone door. Behind the beautiful couple, Bailey Hongzhuang had already explained Xiaoji of her discovery earlier, and Xiaoji had also carefully informed the others so that they could take the opportunity to grab the first position. Everyone saw that Bailey Hongzhuang and her group of people appeared together. Their hearts drummed a little. They didn't understand what they wanted to do, but they still let them go up. Chapter 548 really are a natural pair. These days, everyone had only been looking forward to someone successfully opening the stone door. Otherwise, they would be trapped forever in this monument. Therefore, since Bailey Hongzhuang and the others were trying to open it, they had no reason to block them. Bewitching, look here. Bailey Hongzhuang pointed to a circular groove on the stone door. Bewitching's gaze fell on the circular groove. Looking at it, a feeling of familiarity emerged in his heart, and he immediately understood the meaning behind Bailey Hongzhuang's actions. Among all of them, only he and Bailey Hongzhuang could understand the meaning of this groove. Others must have only thought it to be a decoration. In this way, the master of the monument had prearranged this. Bewitching glanced meaningfully at Bailey Hongzhuang. The meaning behind his gaze was quite apparent. Nyangzi, what do you think? Bailey Hongzhuang's lips curved. The reason for her smile could no longer be understood by anyone except Bewitching. Since you already know, there is no need to waste time. Not too far away, Han Qiling looked at the ambiguous actions between Bailey Hongzhuang and Bewitching, and the chill in her eyes gradually became sharper. Through the conversation between the two of them, she had been able to affirm that this Bailey Hongzhuang was not an easy person to deal with. It was impossible to make her retreat with just a few words. During this time in the monument, she could only accept the existence of Bailey Hongzhuang, and then make plans after leaving here. Next, in front of everyone's shocked and curious eyes, Bailey Hongzhuang and Bewitching took out two swords. After she took out Luli out, but she also noticed that the sword in Bewitching's hands was different from her own crystal sword. Luli was crystal clear, with a faint hint of a line of blood, and the sword in Bewitching's hands was also crystal clear, but with a hint of golden light. At first glance, the two swords were very similar. When you looked closely, however, you would notice that the aura surrounding the two was different. Not only that, the sword in Bewitching's hands was a little bigger than Luli. Bewitching also noticed the difference between the two swords. It could be said that they were only slightly different with a lot of similarities, with the same writing on them. Did that mean that this was a pair of swords? Bailey Hongzhuang and Bewitching looked at each other and had some thoughts in their minds. Bailey Hongzhuang looked carefully at the sword in Bewitching's hands and found that his sword was named Lu Guang. So it must be that their guess was correct. Why did Bewitching suddenly take out these two swords? Yanling Xian looked puzzled at Bailey Hongzhuang and Bewitching's actions, but there was a bit more curiosity. I don't know, but it seems that these two swords are no ordinary goods, and their grade should be very high. Huang Fu Hui's eyes flashed with wisdom. He had always been interested in weapons, so he could roughly see the level of the two swords at a glance. The two swords look very similar. What is the relation between the two? Lin Yiro frowned. The two swords had a very uncanny resemblance. Listening to Lin Yiro's words, Huang Fu Hui slightly though for a moment, saying, "The two swords may be a pair. These are swords used between couples or husband and wives." With Huang Fu Hui saying those words, the emotion in the eyes of Lin Yiro and the others changed. This kind of thing could not be seen often on a normal day. These two people actually possessed it? It seems that Bewitching and Bailey Hongzhuang are really a natural pair. Lin Yiro shook her head and smiled. Luli, in case anyone forgot, that is the name of Bhz's sword. Lu Guang, literally, precious stone light. Lu means precious stone, and Guang here can mean light bright ray, only merely, or to use up. If I'm not wrong, Bhz's means glazed tile. Individually the pinions mean precious stone and colored glaze/glass. So Luli is precious stone glass. If you look in a dictionary, The characters for Luli together mean glazed tile, while individually they have different meaning. I'm going with the individual meanings. Chapter 549, Opening the Stone Door. Han Shiling's eyes changed sharply, and she blinked coldly at Lenny Rowe. What she had said was really unpleasant to hear to her. Lenny Rowe was faintly smiling as if she never noticed Han Shiling's warning eyes, and directly turned her gaze. Just when everyone was trying to guess the origin of the swords in the hands of Bailey Hong Zhuang and Di Bei Chun, they both lifted the swords together, and then fit the hilt into the groove. Kacha! As soon as the hilt was inserted into the groove, a crisp sound came from the stone door. In the previously slightly noisy environment, after this sound came, everyone became quiet, and their eyes condensed in the groove. Boom! Read story at the original site. If this text is showing up, you are reading at a third website. This is piracy. In front of everyone's eyes, the stone door slowly opened. Next, when the people once again looked at the pair of swords in Di Bei Chun and Bailey Hong Zhuang's hands, their eyes had a fiery expression. Now they did not require any guess to know the origin of these two swords. Obviously, these two swords were what they got in this monument. Everyone's heart became fiery. These two swords were actually the mechanism that opened the stone door. It had absolutely not been thought by them. Maybe there were still places where they needed to use these two swords to enter. Xia Zhiqing and the others realized why Bailey Hong Zhuang had been so confident about being able to open the stone door. The stone door's mechanism turned out to be the groove that they had always mistaken to be a decoration. If it was not for the genius of Bailey Hong Zhuang and Di Bei Chun, they were afraid that they would not be able to find a way to open the stone door, even if they lived in the monument. Read story at the original site. Just as Xia Zhiqing and the others were thinking these, they suddenly found that the atmosphere around them had quietly changed. Bailey Hong Zhuang and Di Bei Chun drew up their swords first, and the expression in the eyes of the two had become completely different. As long as anyone could get the two swords, their chances of inheriting the heritage of the monument would be greatly improved. After they saw this scene, Yanling Xian and the others had no idea what to think of Bailey Hong Zhuang, and their thoughts were constantly changing. The inheritance of a master. It was a rare treasure. Once they acquired it, their status in the family could be greatly improved in the future. It won't be the same as in the past. For the time, no one could remain calm in the face of such temptation. Di Bei Chun, Hong Zhuang, you go in first. Read story at the original site. Dongfang Yu quickly noticed the thoughts of the people behind them. If they didn't leave soon, he was afraid that they would have to endure the attack of everyone. Listening to Dongfang Yu's words, Di Bei Chun and Bailey Hong Zhuang looked at each other. Under such circumstances, they indeed had to advance first. Xia Zhiqing and the others extremely tacitly guarded the backs of Di Bei Chun and Bailey Hong Zhuang. They could at least stop everyone for a while. Catch them. Don't let them run. Read story at the original site. Yanling Xian thought again and finally made his decision. He must not give up such a golden opportunity. Read story at the original site. Huang Fuhui also quietly gave his own orders. This was related to their future. He can't give up just because of Di Bei Chun's identity. The cultivators of Tiangang Zone, together with Xia Zhiqing and the others, blocked these people. Di Bei Chun was their young lord. In any case, they also had the duty to protect and guard Di Bei Chun. Bailey Hong Zhuang and Di Bei Chun rushed through the stone door first. After seeing the situation inside, however, the two stayed in the same place. Chapter 550, Sculpture, The Two Masters. Beyond the stone door, a huge main hall is presented before the gazes of the two. The scope of the main hall was completely beyond the imagination of Bailey Hong Zhuang. This main hall was comparable to the combat experience field in the Tsunglong College, and its scope was huge and shocking. However, the first thing Bailey Hong Zhuang was attracted to was the two huge, white jade sculptures in the main hall. The sculptures were carved into two figures, a man and a woman. The man was extremely handsome. His body was tall as bamboo, his posture straight and lean, and his eyes as sharp as an eagle. Just looking at him gave a feeling of shock. The woman was genteel and feminine, with a faint smile on her lips, gentle and charming. Her countenance was like untouched snow, her beauty soft and cordial. Read at original site. The only thing that was the same was that they exuded a powerful and noble aura. These sculptures were carved to the best lifelike personification. If not for the lifelessness of the material, there seemed to be almost no difference between a sculpture and a real person. Read at original site. Don't support aggregate sites. This was the first time Bailey Hongzhuang had seen such perfect sculptures. This kind of carving seemed to be a work of magic. If it was not seen by her own eyes, it would be hard to believe. It seems that these two are the masters of this monument. The low-pitched voice beside her revealed determination and confidence, and Di Beichen looked forward at the two sculptures in admiration and respect. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly. After seeing these two sculptures, she was sure that Lu Li and Lu Guang, these two swords she and Di Beichen had obtained, must have been owned by these two masters. Thinking of this, Bailey Hongzhuang deeply bowed to the two masters. In any case, her strength could be improved because of the gifts of these two masters, and Lu Li had now become her weapon. At the same time, Di Beichen also did the same thing as Bailey Hongzhuang. They had rushed into this monument, which had undoubtedly disturbed the two predecessors. Although they couldn't do anything for the two masters, they should at least express their respect and gratitude. Read at original site. Bailey Hongzhuang's lips had a faint smile. For a long time, most of the relics she had known of were built by one person. It was rare to hear that there were couples who built monuments together. If she had to say, these two people should have a very good relationship. Even to the end of their lives they had been together. After her move of gratitude, Bailey Hongzhuang looked at the situation in the main hall, and turned to look at Di Beichen, saying, "Let's go out." Since they had already entered and seen the situation, there was no reason for them to block others. Di Beichen nodded, and his eyes were like bright stars on his handsome face. Yes, read at original site. Next, Di Beichen and Bailey Hongzhuang acted at the same time, and opened the stone door that was closed. They had always faced their enemies head-on, and they did not want to invite more trouble than they should. Read at original site. It was just that things had happened too suddenly, but after all, they must make sure to get the best. The cultivators of Tsanglan College and Tiangang Zone were blocking the other cultivators from entering. Suddenly, the stone door behind them was opened. Xia Zhiqing and the others couldn't help but look back at the two people behind them. Why are you opening the stone door? Read at original site. Didn't they know that once they come out, they would become the target of public jealousy? Read at original site. However, Di Beichen and Bailey Hongzhuang looked calm. Even if the strength of the four families was not simple, the real situation was not as bad as they think. Chapter 551 Lin Yirou's decision. Is everyone present sure they want to be my enemy? The low and dull voice revealed boundless power, the tone domineering. Di Beichen's face was indifferent and ruthless. His gaze slowly swept over Yin Lingxian and the others. Just a simple sentence, and the originally bristling atmosphere seemed to become heavy. Everyone was shocked at seeing Di Beichen. There were so many people here. But just a look, an action could make people scared from the bottom of their hearts. Yin Lingxian and the others couldn't help but hold back. The reason they even had scruples before was Di Beichen. With Di Beichen's strength and decisiveness, once Di Beichen returned, he would definitely settle this account with them. They were not weak in their families, but they are only one of the many competitors for the family head's position. Their position wasn't set in stone. If Di Beichen was determined to deal with them, their situation would become somewhat difficult. These thoughts were brought up again with Di Beichen's words. Yin Lingxian and Huang Fuhui looked at Lin Yirou and Ji Yuner, trying to ascertain their stance. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes also fell onto the Ji Yuner and Lin Yirou. The cultivators from the Tiangang zone were naturally on their side, except it seemed that the strength of their younger generation was stronger than that of the two teachers, who weren't too bad themselves. Naturally, the strength of the cultivators of Tiangang zone could not be doubted. but they were still dwarfed by the joint efforts of the four families to deal with them. The biggest question was whether the teams of the four families would join hands. Yan Lingxian and Huang Fuhui had apparently formed an alliance for the moment, and Ji Yun'er's situation was rather embarrassing. Ji Yun'er must have wanted to kill her quickly, but because she had just saved her life, she would seem too ungrateful if she were to directly confront her. If she did not, then inside she would still be unwilling. As for Lin Yirou, her attitude was not clear enough. Previously, Lin Yirou was undoubtedly trying to establish a good relationship with her. If she were to draw her sword against her now, then everything before was equivalent to nothing. After thinking about it for a while, she still felt that Lin Yirou would stand in a united front with Yan Lingxian. However, when Bailey Hongzhuang had just thought this, Lin Yirou spoke up. Di Gongzi Bailey Gunyang, I have no plans to be enemies with you too. In this battle, my Lin family will not participate. Li Yirou's face had a faint smile, but her words were clear. At the same time, Lin family's cultivators took a few steps back after hearing Lin Yirou's decision, and showed their attitudes with their actions. It could be seen that Lin Yirou had the absolute right to speak in this team. Lin Yirou's uncharacteristic attitude made everyone pause. Yan Lingxian was even more puzzled. Ji Yun'er's situation was tricky, but Lin Yirou simply had no reason to do this. Bailey Hongzhuang gazed deeply at Lin Yirou. It seemed that Lin Yirou's hatred for Han Shiling ran deeper than she imagined. With Lin Yirou's statement, the atmosphere in the room changed again. Once the Lin family stepped back from the battle, the power of Yan Lingxian and others was reduced. Ji Yun'er, what have you decided? Yan Lingxian asked in a deep voice. This was now a very crucial point. Chapter 552 Han Shiling. Everyone's eyes fell onto the cultivators of the Ji family. The decision of the Ji family would determine the situation at hand. If the Ji family agreed, then the three families would join hands and would have a chance at dealing with the cultivators of Zhonglan College and Tiangang Zone. If Ji family did not agree, then there would only be Yan family and Huangfu family, and the probability of winning was only half. What's more, although Lin Yirou said that she would not become enemies with Di Beichun, but if they and Di Beichun and the other people were to fight, both sides would suffer damage, then the Lin family would be fishing treasures. For a time, all the cultivators present were in a dilemma. Ji Yun'er was hesitant. She had always quite admired Di Beichun, but after the previous incident, she felt that Di Beichun was too indifferent to her, and Bailey Hongzhuang had even saved her. Bailey Hongzhuang. This person seemed to be just a vase, but she still didn't know her true capabilities. Even if she made up her mind to attack, she still had no control over the decision of the Ji family's cultivators. Once Ji Yun'er decided to attack, she was not sure everyone would follow her orders. Outside she was the young miss of Ji family, but inside things were complicated. While Ji Yun'er was hesitating, Ji family's head cultivator had already taken the lead. Bailey Gunyang has been kind to our family, we will not participate in this. Ji Yun'er was slightly stunned. Just turning around she wanted to ask how her own family's cultivator could directly make this decision. But she saw the cultivators looking at her deeply. At a glance, she could see the hint of warning in his eyes. Upon seeing this, Ji Yun'er also fell silent. She also knew that the other person's warning had some meaning. After the Ji family made their stance clear, Xia Zhiqing and the others couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. It seemed that a crisis had been averted, compared to the situation that seemed a lost cause before. At least now they had the possibility of fighting neck to neck. Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichun's eyes immediately fell onto Yan Lingxian and Huang Fuhui. The situation now depended upon those two. They believed that even if they really felt like attacking, they would consider it more. Though they had to say Lin Yirou's direct withdrawal was beyond their expectations. So now the situation had completely reversed. Yan Lingxian and Huang Fuhui were somewhat embarrassed. They thought of the situation before. They had never expected it to become like this. Di Beichun looked coldly at Yan Lingxian and did not speak. His momentum diffused into the atmosphere openly, and the shock and oppression exuded a sense of suffocation. Yan Lingxian, Do you really want to be enemies with my Tian Zong? Just when the atmosphere was turning rigid, Han Shiling, who had been silent, suddenly stood up and spoke, and pointed out the problem to Yin Lingxian. Bailey Hongzhuang's lips curved up with a hint of lightness. This Han Shiling was really interesting. Yin Lingxian had been reduced to a chess piece for her to use, the poor guy. It seemed that Han Shiling's means were to use other men. Sure enough, after Han Shiling said this, Yin Lingxian's face became stiff. There have always been many conflicts in order to compete for treasures. Even if there was a contradiction between the two, it would never involve the head of the family. Han Shiling had just escalated the problem to the level of the entire Tiangang zone. Coupled with his intentions towards Han Shiling, he really had no way to answer this sentence. This was the first time Han Shiling had looked at Yin Lingxian so seriously, and Yin Lingxian looked at the dreamy face, and his entire person became amazed. Chapter 553 Speed at Changing Face. Huang Fu Hui. Yin Lingxian had always admired Han Shiling, but he was also aware that with his current strength and achievements, Han Shiling, who was really prideful, would look down at him in her heart. He knew in his heart that there was a possibility that Han Shiling would be willing to be with him, and until now he saw a glimmer of hope. If he can get the inheritance of the monument, then his strength would be greatly enhanced, and his status will also rise. As a result, he may be able to enter Han Shiling's eyes. However, Han Shiling had now asked him this question. If he continued with this, he would undoubtedly offend Han Shiling. When Han Shiling asked this sentence, everyone's gazes fell onto Yin Lingxian and became quiet. After all, they were also aware of his entanglement. Han Gunyang, I will naturally not be an enemy of yours. Yin Lingxian's deep thoughts were said out loud, and in this short time, he already understood a lot of things. Since he would not necessarily succeed, plus Han Shiling as a factor, he really has no need to do this. When Yin Lingxian said this, the atmosphere changed once again, as Lu Huaiyan and the others completely let go. It seemed that this crisis had been quietly resolved. Han Shiling's mouth curved in a smug smile, and her eyes, which had always been cold and silent, were also a little kind and gentle when looking at Yin Lingxian. Yin Lingxian noticed the change in Han Shiling's gaze, and he hoped that the feelings in his heart won't show on his face. It seemed that his decision made Han Shiling have a good impression of him. This was the biggest gain of his decision. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at Yin Lingxian with a bit of pity, really a poor guy. The reason why Han Shiling had such a change was undoubted that she wanted to show it in front of Di Beichun, and Yin Lingxian had little to do with the changes in Han Shiling. If she were to say, the next time Yin Lingxian sees Han Shiling again, Han Shiling would turn her face and not even recognize him. Seeing that Yin Lingxian had also backed out, a flash of light passed in Huang Fu Hui's eyes. He had not expected Yin Lingxian, this guy, to be planted in the hands of a woman. It was a pity he had given up such a great opportunity. Now, with the help of only one family, he couldn't change the situation at all. On the contrary, they would be hurting themselves. Thinking of this, on Huang Fu Hui's face appeared a smile. Thank you, Di Gongzi and Bailey Gunyang, for opening the stone door. How about we go in? Huang Fu Hui's speed at changing face had always been very fast. Even if he was being indifferent a second before, the next second, as long as it considered a relationship that could give him benefits, he would do anything. Looking at Huang Fu Hui's sudden change, Xia Zhiqing's mouth unknowingly fell open, secretly yelling inside. If it wasn't for her own eyes, she would have to doubt whether Huang Fu Hui in front of hers from before and now was the same person. This speed of changing face, it was absolutely amazing. The children of cultivation families are really something. These means I am completely convinced. Xia Zhiqing was very impressed, and her heart was still envious as she thought of Huang Fu Hui's ability. This kind of guy who was pretty good at changing face should stay far away from them. But honestly, this ability was terrible. Being friends with such a person, even if one were sold out, they wouldn't be able to say anything. Bai Junyu's face also had a touch of approval. It has also been an eye-opener for me. Chapter 554 The Main Hall. Where is the inheritance? Bailey Hong Zhuang's lips curved up in a beautiful smile. Even the children of these cultivation foxes were a group of seasoned foxes. Huang Fu Hui's speed at changing face was indeed very fast, but this ability was also not very beneficial for him, because as a result, the people who would dare to believe in him would be few. Since the stone door has been opened, everyone can naturally go in. Bailey Hong Zhuang said and smiled, her calm and elegant face unlike the tense atmosphere just moments previously. Bewitching glanced at Huang Fu Hui, and his thin pink lips rose slightly, as an evil charming laugh sounded. It was a deep smile that made people's hearts secretly flustered. However, when everyone thought that Bewitching had something to say, Bewitching suddenly turned around and took Bailey Hong Zhuang's hands, walking through the stone door. After Bewitching went in, Huang Fu Hui was relieved, at least for now. They had avoided frontal conflict. As for the future, let's talk about it later. When Han Xiling saw Bewitching take Bailey Hong Zhuang's hand and walk directly into the main hall, the smile on her face turned colder in an instant, and in her heart was unspeakable disappointment and resentment. After all, she also needed to be credited for this situation. But Bewitching did not even say a word to her. Xia Zhiqing and the others walked into the main hall behind Bailey Hong Zhuang. As soon as they entered the main hall, everyone's eyes were already attracted by the magnificence of the main hall. My God, this main hall is too spectacular. Xia Zhiqing's pretty face was full of exclamation and shock. The scope of this main hall was beyond her imagination. Gong Xiaoqing couldn't help but feel that there was always a taller mountain elsewhere. The hall was strange, seemingly endless, and only after understanding this did he understand how powerful the master was. Even Han Xiling, at the moment she saw the scene in the main hall, she also temporarily put down the dissatisfaction in her heart. After all, the inheritance of the monument was the most important thing. Yanling Xian and Huang Fu Hui's eyes still lingered over Bailey Hong Zhuang and Bewitching's figures from time to time. They didn't know if the swords they possessed had anything to do with the final inheritance. Feeling Yanling Xian's gaze, Bailey Hong Zhuang was quite indifferent, and Luli was directly into the ring of chaos. And then she carefully observed the entire main hall. The large main hall was very empty, except for the two sculptures. Only in the center was a circular pool, like a fountain with clear water inside. On the other hand, there was no other useful thing besides the very beautiful decorations on the wall. Master, just with a glance it looks like there is nothing in the main hall. Yu Xiaohei's face was helpless, and this thing could be seen at a glance. There didn't seem to be anything special. A bright light flashed through Bailey Hong Zhuang's eyes, and now she had a certain understanding of the thoughts of the masters. There was absolutely nothing in this big main hall. The treasures must be in a place they didn't know. As for where it was worth deliberating. Be careful, pay attention to the places that others have not noticed, and you should find out. Chapter 555 Taunts. Han Xiling. Bailey Hong Zhuang was not in a hurry, and her beautiful and exquisite face never revealed even the slightest anxiety. She couldn't eagerly eat hot tofu, and so calmed down. It was possible to find places that others can't notice. Even if we find the inheritance of the monument, it is a problem to pass the assessment to get the inheritance. Bailey Hong Zhuang's eyebrows slightly rose. She knew these customary ideas of masters. In order to successfully obtain the inheritance of the monument, it was necessary to pass the test set by the master. Usually, the test of a monument's master was not simple, and the inheritance of the monument was very precious. The master of the relic wanted to select qualified inheritors to continue their legacy, and naturally, they won't give tests easily passed. Once passes, it would be an extremely precious gain. Isn't it said that the masters of monuments have very precious inheritance? There is nothing here at all. I haven't found a single thing since we came in. Were we wrong? Look for it again. When the stone door had yet to be opened, hadn't everyone said that there was no mechanism at all? The originally irritated cultivators were silenced after hearing this sentence. Indeed, they all thought that there was no such thing, as an organ in the stone door. The result clearly today them that not only was authority needed, but those with authority were also very obvious. They never found out that they had never had any opportunity. Why is the water in this pool clear even after so many years? Xia Zhiqing stood beside the circular pool, and her beautiful face was full of curiosity. From normal reasoning, after so many years, the water in the pool should have dirted or evaporated. It still being so clear was incredible. Xia Zhiqing's voice just fell, and some cultivators touched the water in the pool directly with their hands. Now, when it as a race against time, if they were a step later than others, perhaps the inheritance would fall into others' hands. However, as everyone checked the pool water, the doubtful expression of their faces became more intense. Not for other reasons, just because this water was plain water, there was nothing special at all. Standing in front of the statue of the woman, Bailey Hongzhuang stared at the statue. The two statues in the main hall were the most conspicuous. Maybe the test was related to the sculptures. Predecessor, I wonder if you have any tests for the younger generation? Bailey Hongzhuang muttered to herself, but her heart was full of thoughts and speculations, constantly thinking about any possibility. When Han Xiling saw Bailey Hongzhuang, who was not looking for the inheritance, and was even seemingly asking the statue, she couldn't help but sneer in her heart. People who hadn't seen T world were truly inferior. Could it be she thought this statue was alive? Bailey Gunyang, you can't get any results if you ask this statue. Han Xiling sneered. Her words sounded like a conversation between friends. Compared to the previous attitude, it was undoubtedly better, but the meaning and taunt it was still very obvious. Not far away, Bewitching saw Han Xiling walk to Bailey Hongzhuang's side, and his deep and charming eyes flashed with complex emotions. And then he walked to the front of the man's sculpture. The distance between the two sculptures was not far, so standing in this position, he could also hear the conversation between Han Xiling and Bailey Hongzhuang. Since the monument has been revealed, it is natural it must be the intention of the monument's master. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled, not putting Han Xiling's words in her heart. Chapter 556 Idiot Yinling Xian. Han Xiling noticed Di Bei-chun who had walked over, and the emotion on her face changed slightly, as if she had been kindly advising. The master of this monument has already been dead for many years. Is there anything more to it? Instead of wasting time on this, it's better to find the inheritance. Han Xiling did not care. In her opinion, the masters had died even if their strength was admirable. Such gestures did not make sense. Since the master of this monument had left it behind, it was nothing more than a hope that their inheritance would not disappear between heaven and earth. As long as they could pick a good successor, it was a great blessing for them. Di Bei-chun listened to the conversation between the two people. After seeing that Han Xiling did not say any excessive words, he let go of the worries in his heart. In his heart, identity and other things were not important at all. The only important thing was Bailey Hongzhuang's feelings. It had not been easy for him to get close to her. If he caused Bailey Hongzhuang to change her mind because of the things recently, it is the last thing he wants to see. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at the mockery in Han Xiling's eyes, and felt thankful their roads were different. In her view, this Han Xiling was somewhat overconfident, and her self-confidence was beyond arrogance. This kind of mentality was the most undesirable for cultivators. There are uncountable people, like mountains beyond mountains, each was stronger than the previous. It was a truth that you needed to be open-minded at all times. Only in this way, the heart would be strong enough. No matter what kind of situation, any blows could be survived. But if one was arrogant, once destroyed by their own destructive self-confidence, it would be nothing less than devastating. In some talented and noble young cultivators, this kind of thing was most common, their arrogance. Yinling Xian also came to Han Xiling's side at this moment. Han Gunyang is very good. Even if you pay respects to the stature, the master of the monument won't show up. You are just a joke. Listening to these words, Bailey Hongzhuang looked indifferently at Yinling Xian. Growth is not possible for the narrow-minded. You hold such an attitude towards the master's remains. yet also want their inheritance. I'm afraid it's not that easy. Bailey Gunyang, be more careful. Yin Lingxian chuckled. The master of the monument is just looking for a suitable inheritor. It's fine as long as the strength and talent are strong enough. This Yin Lingxian is really an idiot. Xiao Hei could not help but want to vomit. This guy from beginning to end was a poor worm that was used by Han Xiling. And now he excitedly ran over to provoke their master. Pitiful people can also be really hateful. Yin Lingxian is such a guy. No one will be sad seeing his misery in the future. Xiao Bai shook his head. For such an idiot, he was too lazy to say more. Since Yin Gongzi is so confident, why is Luli nodding your hand? Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes shone brilliantly. Since Yin Lingxian had ridiculed her in her face, she did not intend to take it lying down. She was also not afraid of conflicts. With Bailey Hongzhuang's words, Yin Lingxian's face became extremely ugly. These words from Bailey Hongzhuang had undoubtedly poked his weakness, so that he could not answer. Bailey Gunyang, you just had momentary luck. But you are so proud, aren't you too much? Chapter 557 finds mechanism. Hongzhuang Han Xiling's eyes were extremely cold. Just a simple sentence, but her arrogant meaning was undoubted. Originally, Yin Lingxian was very angry because of the irony behind Bailey Hongzhuang's words. At this moment, after seeing that Han Xiling helped him respond, his expression became good. Di Beichen's brows were slightly wrinkled, and he slowly stepped forward and walked to the side of Bailey Hongzhuang. Without waiting for Di Beichen to speak, Bailey Hongzhuang spoke out first. Han Gunyang and Yin Gongzi have an excellent relationship. When Yin Gongzi can't speak up, you even become angry on his behalf. Her words made Han Xiling's expression change, and her cold, arrogant face was immediately dyed with a touch of black and blue. On the contrary, Yin Lingxian's eyes were filled with a little joy. He also felt that after the previous things, Han Xiling's attitude towards him had changed significantly. You're speaking nonsense, I didn't. Han Xiling quickly retorted, but her eyes couldn't help but fall onto Di Beichen. Her pretty face was full of anxiousness, only worried that Di Beichen would misunderstand her. Han Gunyang does not need to be so anxious to deny it. I am just gossiping. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled enchantingly at her embarrassment. Han Gunyang is so anxious to clear this up, but it really does seem as if you have some feelings. Han Xiling looked gloomily at Bailey Hongzhuang, glaring. She just wanted to provoke Bailey Hongzhuang by helping Yin Lingxian. She didn't know that her simple sentence would result in dirty water being poured over her. Most importantly, the deep smile in Bailey Hongzhuang's words left her no room for an explanation. Di Dage, you have to believe me. Han Xiling looked at Di Beichen with worry. She did not care how other people looked at her. She only cared about Di Beichen's thoughts. Di Beichen's evil charming smile was shown. Yin Gongzi is also a phoenix among men with great potential. With Di Beichen's voice falling, Han Xiling's heart sank to the bottom of a valley in an instant, and she looked incredulously at Di Beichen. Is it that in the past few years, did Di Beichen really have no thoughts about her? Bailey Hongzhuang was in her line of sight, smiling deeply at Di Beichen, blinking, and Han Xiling's eyes revealed more hatred and jealousy. Suddenly, Bailey Hongzhuang's gaze fell onto the statue. On the woman's slightly raised hand, she found that there seemed to be something placed. Bailey Hongzhuang glanced at Di Beichen meaningfully, as his figure flickered, and he directly jumped into the air. This look was enough for Bailey Hongzhuang to affirm her own discovery, because the slightly raised place in the woman's hand was obviously deliberate. At the same time, Di Beichen came to the statue of the man, and there seemed to be similar place on the man's sculpture as well. Everyone saw that Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen suddenly jumped into the air, but they did not know what these two people wanted to do, and could not help but be confused. Bailey Hongzhuang did not hesitate to press on the raised mechanism on the woman's palm, and a slightly thunderous sound proved her speculations. Di Beichen's speed was not slow. He moved a little, and the same sound came. No way, the organ was on the hands of the sculptures? My God, how could we not notice such a conspicuous position? Chapter 558 appears. Mysterious Aperture. Han Xiling and Yanling Xian were also stunned at this moment. They had previously ridiculed Bailey Hong Zhuang and dismissed the sculptures as being useless. The next moment, Bailey Hong Zhuang had found the mechanism on the sculpture. This really made them lose face. After Bailey Hong Zhuang landed back onto the ground, she found that although there was a sound when she had pressed the mechanism, there were no changes in the whole main hall. This was too strange. However, just as Bailey Hong Zhuang was thinking this, Xia Zhiqing's exclamation sounded. "Hong Zhuang, you have an aperture under your feet." Hearing this, Bailey Hong Zhuang looked down at her feet and found a circular red aperture under them. On the aperture, a complex and mysterious totem was drawn, which constantly rotated under her feet. It looked beautiful. Not only that, but looking carefully at the totem in the aperture gave people a sense of shock, as if there was some mysterious power sealed in it. At a glance, everyone could discover the extraordinariness of the aperture. What does this aperture mean? Bailey Hong Zhuang's eyebrows furrowed. She had never seen a similar aperture, and she did not understand what it meant. As soon her line of sight shifted, Bailey Hong Zhuang discovered that there was a similar aperture under Di Beichen's feet, but the color of this aperture was not the same as hers. The golden aperture whirled beneath Di Beichen's feet, exuding a mysterious and powerful power. Wow, the luck of these two is too good. Zhang Yinfeng's face was full of emotions. Previously, Bailey Hong Zhuang and Di Beichen had gotten a lot of Yuan Ligua in the stone room, which was already enviable. But it still wasn't the same as getting the final inheritance of this monument. It's like this. So the search for the final inheritance had nothing to do with the swords. Gong Shaoqing's voice was heavy, but his eyes flashed with a tinge of enlightenment. Next, a cultivator of Jijia also jumped above onto the sculptures. The same sound of the mechanism opening sounded, and then a similar golden aperture appeared beneath his feet. Hey, even we can touch this mechanism. After seeing this, everyone's joy showed on their faces. They thought that this inheritance belonged to Di Beichen and Bailey Hong Zhuang. Now it seemed that they still have hope. Then all the cultivators started touching the mechanism. Sure enough, as everyone expected, after touching the mechanism, there appeared one aperture after the other. After careful inspection, everyone found that the aperture under the men's feet was golden, and the aperture under the women's feet was red. Han Xiling and Yanling Xian also touched the mechanism. However, there was no sound even after they touched it. Even the aperture did not appear under the feet of the two. Seeing this scene, everyone's eyes fell on those two, and they did not understand why they were an exception. Han Xiling and Yanling Xian were also astonished. They didn't understand why they were different. What is this all about? Yanling Xian was full of anger, and immediately touched the mechanism. But no matter how he touched it, the mechanism did not move at all. Han Xiling also tried again, but the result was basically the same as Yanling Xian. It won't. Is it that this inheritance is for both of you? Chapter 559 goes against the normal routine? Linny Ro's expression was a bit strange. The aperture that appeared under so many people's feet, but did not for Han Xiling and Yanling Xian. This was too strange. It's hard to think. The monument's master was going against the normal routine? Listening to Linny Ro's conjecture, the look of the people changed slightly. Linny Ro's guess was not without reason. After all, the strength and talent of Han Xiling and Yanling Xian was well known. They would definitely not be excluded by the master. Perhaps it was really as Linny Ro said, and these two were the true inheritors. The thoughts of the master of this monument are really different. No aperture, but with the talent of them both, this should be the affirmation of the monument's master. Ji Yin'er looked at Han Xiling and Yanling Xian unwillingly. For these two people, she did not have the slightest affection. On the contrary, she only hoped that the two of them would not have good ends. Now the inheritance belonged to the two of them. Then after this expedition, their strength would certainly surpass hers. Until now, she was not that afraid of finding Han Xiling for trouble. Now, she was afraid that she would have to walk around when she saw them. Linny Ro's face was also ugly. She preferred this inheritance going to other people, but she absolutely did not want it to be obtained by Han Xiling. Seeing everyone agreeing with this inference, Han Xiling and Yinling Xian's faces also showed a happy smile. The inheritance of the monument's master. When they thought of thus, their hearts was full of unspeakable excitement. This feeling was no different than a pie falling from the heavens. After obtaining this inheritance, their strength can be improved again. The master of this monument really doesn't have eyes. They even picked these two annoying guys. Xia Zhiqing snorted, and her eyes sparkled with annoyance. Hong Zhuang and Di Beichun are much better than these two. This is a waste. Listening to Xia Zhiqing's rant, Bai Junyu agreed with a nod. I also think it is a pity. Master, this shouldn't be true? Xiao Hei's eyes widened. This result was too unacceptable. If the inheritor really is them, then the monument's master really is blind. Xiao Bai was speechless for a while. He too found it unacceptable. Bailey Hong Zhuang's expression was also a bit complicated. Although everyone's analysis was quite reasonable, she always felt that the situation was somewhat wrong. She was not sure what it was though. When her line of sight shifted, Bailey Hong Zhuang found that Di Beichun appeared to be thinking. She couldn't help but ask, "What did you find?" "Nyangzi, this aperture is very similar to what I once heard from Master." Bailey Hong Zhuang's eyes shone brightly. Di Beichun's master was Tian Gangzong's sovereign. He obviously knew a lot. What? The light of inheritance? Bailey Hong Zhuang's brows slightly lifted. This thing she was hearing for the first time. It must be something that happened after her death. I have heard from Master that he saw this thing in a monument, but it was somewhat different from the situation in front of us. Di Beichun was hesitant. He was almost certain that this aperture was the light of inheritance, but now with these exceptions he was not sure. What's the difference? Bailey Hong Zhuang asked. Chapter 560 Are shocked, the statue speaks. The light of inheritance will appear beneath the foot of every cultivator who entered the monument. The master of the monument will check the talent and potential of the cultivators through the light of inheritance, and then reevaluate them. Only, the situation of Xiling and Yinling Xian is somewhat special. Di Beichun felt a bit hesitant. This aperture was very similar to what Master had described. Could it be this was not the light of inheritance? Bailey Hong Zhuang was also silent. This was the first time she had seen such a thing, and it was impossible to make a correct judgment. The two people, Han Xiling and Yinling Xian, were secretly happy. She too had seen this thing for the first time. Suddenly, a low and deep voice echoed in the main hall. Those who are disrespectful are not qualified to receive the inheritance. Hearing this voice, the faces of all the people present became sallow. Because this voice seemed to be speaking right in front of their ears, very clearly, it had a shocking effect. Just a simple sentence, and everyone could feel the powerful and terrifying strength of the other. It could completely kill anyone who was present. For the first time, people felt such a sense of oppression from just a voice. Well, who was the speaker? Lu Huaiyan's face flashed with amazement. Such strength, it was simply daunting. The eyes of all the people were constantly looking around the hall. They all wanted to know who it was. In the end, everyone's eyes stopped on the man's sculpture, because no one other than him could have such strength. Next, in front of everyone's shocked or horrified eyes, the sculpture that had remained motionless actually moved. Everyone was frozen on the spot. They couldn't believe the scene before them. This ruin had been buried underground for so many years. Isn't it that the owner of the monument is already dead? How can it still move? Bailey Hong Zhuang was also slightly shocked. She was used to listening to her family's elders. Some strong people could leave their spiritual strength behind even after dying, to instruct those of the future generations. However, these spirits are nothing but the remnants of the fallen and the strong, and do not have any aggressiveness. Maybe, the situation in front of her was really like what she thinks. My God, is it that my eyes have been blinded? A young cultivator from Tiangangzong squinted his eyes at this scene. He only felt that he was dreaming and couldn't discern if what was before him was true. It shouldn't be. Otherwise, is it that the two of us have been blinded together? The friend beside him slowly said. his expression not much better either. Previously, the inheritance on the monument had been too tempting. Now they only think they have encountered a ghost and can't wait to escape. Indeed, I don't really like impolite people. I want them to leave. After the man's sculpture spoke, the sculpture of the woman beside him also spoke up, her every gesture full of charm and life. "Qinger, what do you say?" The man smiled at the woman as she smiled back. When he looked at Han Xiling and Yinling Xian again, his eyes were already frosty. At that moment everyone felt foolish. It turned out that Han Xiling and Yinling Xian did not have an aperture beneath their feet, because the masters of the monument resented them. And then they had such a result. This sudden change was beyond the expectations of the people. The envious eyes they cast at Han Xiling and Yinling Xian had quietly turned to disdain and ridicule. Chapter 561 Strike, the Master of the Monument. The situation has changed too fast. They must really find it unacceptable. Lin Yiro chuckled. Han Xiling had always been proud. Now that she was not qualified to accept the inheritance because of this reason, she found it really interesting. The masters of this monument have such a personality. Who could have guessed this reason? Cui Haoyin shrugged his shoulders, feeling helpless, but his mouth couldn't help but curve up. He knew the gap between himself and those of cultivating families. So he did not want to have the slightest conflicting with these families. But he did not have a good impression of Han Xiling and Yinling Xian. Haha, this is so funny. Xia Zhiqing couldn't help but laugh out loud. If she didn't care about the masters before her, she really would have wanted to laugh louder. Could this situation be any funnier? Han Xiling always had a high-above-you attitude. Wherever she went, there was a feeling of her being unignorable. She was like a peacock that spread open its train, attracting everyone's attention. However, she would now be driven out of the monument for her impoliteness and arrogance. This would be a big stain on Han Xiling's reputation. This time she was really curious to see how Han Xiling would continue to stay calm. Bailey Hongzhuang also found it a bit amusing, and this sudden scene was also beyond her expectations. For the time, she only thought that Han Xiling and Yinling Xian were unlucky. If Han Xiling hadn't come to look for trouble, she wouldn't have said disrespectful words about the master. However, everything that Han Xiling had previously ridiculed had faded away. The statue spoke up. The master of the monument had not completely disappeared. The two people who had ridiculed her were now being driven out of the monument for it. Even she was smirking a little bit. Han Xiling looked at Bailey Hongzhuang with anger. And at this moment, she couldn't keep up her previous cold and calm expression. She had lived for so many years and had never been so embarrassed. She even suspected that Bailey Hongzhuang had already guessed all of this already, so she deliberately set up a trap for her. However, just as this thought spawned, it was dispelled by Han Xiling. If Bailey Hongzhuang could really guess to such extent, then Bailey Hongzhuang was too powerful. Faced with Han Xiling's rage, Bailey Hongzhuang shrugged innocently. This she really hadn't planned it. Yinling Xian's face was also ugly to the extreme. He had obviously come for the inheritance. Now even the chance to test for it had not been given. He was directly driven away. He felt he had lost a lot of face. "Get out," the master of the monument whispered. "Predecessor, we." Yinling Xian was unwilling, and he was prepared to explain things to the master of the monument to seek an opportunity for himself. The masters of the monument only looked at Yinling Xian and Han Xiling impatiently, and then he waved with one hand, and everyone only felt a gust of whistling wind. The figures of Han Xiling and Yinling Xian had already disappeared from before their eyes. When they saw this, everyone was stunned, and their eyes widened. This was a master of a monument. Just a random wave, and people had completely disappeared. This was a power. The cultivators present at the scene couldn't help but wallow their spit, and their fear of the masters of the monument reached a new high. In the face of such strength, they had no ability to resist even a little. Bewitching looked at the place Han Xiling had disappeared, and there was some concern in his eyes. In any case, Han Xiling was the younger sister who grew up with him. Chapter 562 Tentative. Di Beichen. After a few moments, Bailey Hongzhuang saw the look on Di Beichen's face, a smile ghosting on her lips. Don't worry, isn't the master of the monument just saying them to get out? Di Beichen listened to Bailey Hongzhuang's words, and there was some hesitation and worry in his eyes, until he was sure that Bailey Hongzhuang was not angry. Nyangzi, I am just... Bailey Hongzhuang slightly raised her right hand and took the lead. You don't have to explain, I understand. She understood the complexity of Di Beichen's thoughts at this moment. So far, between her and Han Xiling, Di Beichen had always stood on her side. This had already proven the standing between her and Han Xiling in Di Beichen's eyes. Only when Han Xiling was driven out did Di Beichen show a hint of worry. He was undoubtedly worried about Han Xiling getting hurt or dying. This was also very normal. If Di Beichen did not react at all, it would be really strange. After all, Han Xiling had known him for many years and helped him when he was in trouble. As long as it was a person with the slightest empathy and righteousness, it was impossible for them to have no worries. Seeing Bailey Hongzhuang so understanding, Di Beichen was also relieved. In this situation, he had no better way to deal with it. Suddenly, Bailey Hongzhuang's phoenix eyes slightly narrowed, and her voice seemed to be tempting. If one day, your Xiling Shimi wants to kill me, what will you do? She understood Di Beichen's concern, but also wanted to know what Di Beichen would decide if it came to either of their deaths. Han Xiling's skill at disguising was good. She hadn't seen her true face a single time in front of Di Beichen. After all, a woman would always disguise herself as perfect in front of the one she loved. However, with the confrontation between her and Han Xiling, there really may come a day when either of them would die. Nyangzi, there won't be such a day. Bailey Hongzhuang's gaze seemed to bore a hole through Bailey Hongzhuang, his expression serious and dignified. So, you can't conclude your decision if such a thing happened? Bailey Hongzhuang asked, the expression in her deep eyes changing, revealing an unknown emotion. When her voice fell, Bailey Hongzhuang no longer wanted to look at Di Beichen. Perhaps short-term acquaintances were really not as good as a person one had known for years. If there is such a day, I will always stand on the side of my wifey. Di Beichen slowly uttered these words, and his tone was firm and determined. This answer was absolutely firm, from his heart from beginning to end. The reason why he paused for a moment was that he felt that such a situation would not happen. But if it did happen, he would not hesitate. Bailey Hongzhuang, who had been unprepared for these words, quietly glanced at Di Beichen after hearing them. After seeing the resolute look on his face, some of the unpleasantness in her heart also quietly disappeared. Until such a situation happens, it is not something I would like to see either. Bailey Hongzhuang's voice was mild. If Han Xiling was clever, she would not blow this up into a situation that could only end in pain. But if Han Xiling didn't know how to be good, she would definitely put her to her death. She won't sit still. The reason for her words now was only to let Di Beichen be psychologically prepared in advance. Fortunately, Di Beichen's answer had not disappointed her. After Han Xiling disappeared from her field of vision, the eyes of the gathered people were again on the two sculptures. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support. And don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.